I suppose um, two things to mention first. I want to welcome Mark Smith, who is doing the Deep Dive review and who is sitting in on this meeting. Um, and secondly, I think it is appropriate that during recess, a former councillor has tragically passed away, and I think the police council would like to say a few words about former councillor Wilfred Breen. No. No? Okay, sorry. Well, we slight technical hiccup. How much did they hear of that then? Just
No.
no. Okay, sorry. So just as I say, a welcome to Mark Smith, who's doing the deep dive review of the council structures. But secondly, I suppose it's with deep regret.
Okay.
Sorry, members, we're just having a couple of IT glitches with the chair's microphone, so we'll just sort that now, and the chair will fully be heard.
Oh, wait, now better the third time. What? Okay. Yeah, just it's with deep regret that the council has learned of the recent death of Mr. Wilfred Breen, who served as an Ulster Unionist councillor in the former Omagh District Council from 1985 to 1997, and during which time included one term as chair and two as vice chair. Wilfred died on the 13th of August 2020 at the age of 91. So I think it's fair to say he had a rich and fulfilled life during which he was a dedicated teacher, counsellor, organist, and choir master. For many years, he was a respected and well-known teacher locally at the school, the Duke of Westminster School in Kesh. He also proudly served as a member and chaplain of Omagh District LOL number 11 and as a member of Black Session Lodge. In addition, he was a dedicated husband to his beloved wife, Ruby. During his 12-year tenure with Omagh District Council, Wilfred immersed himself in his political career as an Omagh Town councillor and always put the very best interests of his constituents at heart. He took his role as chair and vice chair very seriously and took pride in his civic role. And as an Ulster Unionist chairman, I am proud to be following in Wilfred's footsteps today, representing the same seat that he did. Wilfred was a deeply religious and played a major role in his church, undertaking many duties on behalf of the parish and its parishioners. But his most notable role within the church was as a talented organist and choir master. And again, this was a role he took great pride in. Wilfred was always known never to do things in half measures. He gave his all to everything he did in life, and it was indeed a life well lived. On behalf of the council, I want to offer our sincere condolences to Wilfred's wife Ruby and to his wider family circle and friends. I would now ask that the council observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect to Wilfred Breen, and then we'll be taking comments if anyone wants to make them. But a minute's silence, please. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, members, for doing that. I'd like to bring in, there's a number of hands here of people who wish to make comment. Councillor Rainey.
To Mrs. Ruby Breen and the wider Breen family circle on the passing of the late Wilfred Breen. Wilfred was one of nature's gentlemen who gave us all to everything he was involved in. He was a stalwart of the West Tyrone Ulster Unionist Association for some 12 years, serving as councillor for Omagh Town from 1985 to 1997, vice chairman on 2 occasions, and chair on 1 occasion. I was most fortunate to have the pleasure of working with him as a junior councillor, and I found him to be one of life's true gentlemen who set a very high standard in everything he was involved in and achieved, leaving us a legacy that we will do well to imitate in the days that lie ahead. Wilfred, you have been in the balances and found not wanting, and again, condolences to you, Ruby, as wife of the late Wilfred Breen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rainey. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. I too want to speak with regard to the passing of Wilfred Breen. He's a man I would have known for several decades, not as a councillor, but as we served together in the loyal institutions, and particularly at District Orange level in Omagh. I served with him through many years there. I always found Wilfred to be a great character and a gentleman of the highest integrity. My deepest sympathy goes to his wife Ruby and the Breen family circle at this very sad and difficult time. Although the man was over 90, he's still sadly missed. So on behalf of myself, my family and the Democratic Unionist Party, I want to express my condolences to Ruby at this time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. The next name I have on the list is Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I didn't have the pleasure of serving on the Legacy Omagh District Council with the late Councillor Wilfred Breen, but by all accounts, he was a remarkable man of very many talents and dedicated to his community. The fact that he served as a local representative for 12 years on the Legacy Omagh District Council, including 1 as chair and 2 as vice chair, indicates that he was very unselfish with his time and gave of himself in a very generous manner. His passing, I think, will leave our community much poorer. But it was a remarkable life, well lived. And I too want to express my condolences to Mrs. Ruby Breen and the wider Breen family on his sad passing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Deehan. Councillor Michael Duff. Yeah, Councillor Michael Duff here.
Am I sorry?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the group, the Sinn Féin group, I want to extend our apologies, or sorry, our sympathy and Covrone, our sympathy to the Breen family. And just say 2 things about him, about Wilfred. He was distinguished and respected. Alan Rainey used the word gentleman. I think we'll all agree with that. And despite our political differences, I have no hesitation that Wilfred made a valuable contribution, very valuable contribution to life in Omagh and beyond. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Michael Duff. Councillor McCloughy.
Thank you, Chair. obviously, Wilfie, as he was affectionately known in the Cash area, taught in the Duke of Westminster, which is literally across the hill from me. He was also a regular visitor with my father. They had great interest in the Unionist Party. Little known about Wilfie, but some people will remember he was an avid letter writer to newspapers and also a broadcaster. I think he was on personal names with David Dunseith and Wendy Austin. I think it was like a little party when the three of those got together. So on the radio. So he's very affectionately remembered in this area, and I want to pass on from the community in the KS area our condolences to Ruby on his death.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And, like others, I would like to pay tribute to the life of Wilfred Breen for the many years of public service that he gave to residents in our district, and in particular to the people of the town. And, like others, I would like to... Sorry. And I would also just say that I didn't have the opportunity to serve alongside Wilfred in local government, but in the days following his passing, it was quite remarkable to hear the many happy stories that people, particularly in my area around Clannabogan, have, particularly given that he was a very familiar face at Clannabogan Parish Church. So just wanted to pass on my condolences to Ruby at this sad time, and also pay my respects to someone who certainly made a significant contribution to our community over very many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. I would like to send my deepest condolences to the family on the loss of such a great man, from all the, from Councillor Rainey, what he had to say. From my own neck of the woods in Erin North, I know that a lot of my constituents would know him and regard him, have him in high regard, so I'd like to send my deepest condolences. And that's all, hopefully that he will be... his family will find comfort in our words to them tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Coyle. I suppose the three hands up are three people that already. So thank you. If you put your hands down from now. Okay, so that's the board cleared. Councillor Wilson. Different issue, yeah.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Could I would like to thank the organizer VJD celebrations for their kind invitation to represent Fermanagh and Omagh District Council.
Councillor Wilson, I'm just going to stop you here. I'm getting an indication from the Chief Executive. This might be more appropriate for AOB. I know you'd contacted me earlier about it, but I think it might be more appropriate for AOB. Is that all right?
Fine. That's whatever suits.
Okay. So I'll take that as an AOB for Councillor Wilson. If we now move to apologies, and we go through the the group leaders first for anyone on behalf of their parties. Councillor Michael Duff.
Okay, Chair, thank you. And no apologies from the Sinn Féin group, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies from the Ulster Unionist group.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. No apologies from the Democratic Unionist grouping.
Okay, Councillor Garrity.
No, she's not on, Chair, so we'll give her apologies, please.
Okay. Is that everyone from the SDLP? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And any of the independents know of any apologies? Nope. Okay. Okay. So if we move to item 2 on the agenda, to confirm and sign minutes of the reconvened council meeting. Councillor, we've got I think Councillor Wilson's hands up from before, and Councillor Swift.
Yeah, just before we begin the minutes, I'd like to congratulate formally Councillor Emmett McAleer on the birth of his little baby boy, Emmett Og, and this is possibly his first formal meeting since the birth of his baby. So we welcome Emmett Og to the world. Imagine having a young Emmett. How wonderful. Congratulations, Emmett.
Congratulations, Emmett, from myself as well. Your hands up.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks first of all for the congratulations. I'm sure there was a few people shaking their head whenever they heard that another Emmett McAleer coming into the board. But it's really possible that 2 points of order in terms of standing order maybe I could raise. First of all, just I suppose it's a bit concerning looking at again tonight's agenda, the amount of topics that have been covered in the confidential business end of the meeting, and again, that stuff that's being discussed away from the people of the area, from the constituents that we represent, and that's quite concerning, I suppose, because to my mind, there's a lot of information in there that isn't necessarily required to be covered, and confidential information should be open to the public. The second, and it's something I would like to
would it maybe be handier to deal with them in turn? So if I
that's fine,
executive, not yet.
Certainly, Chair, just as members are aware, there are specific grounds on which the council must go into confidential business. They are the only grounds in which we do so, and those are the matters which are included in Part 2 business this evening.
There you go. I take that as the matter sort of fairly comprehensively dealt with. What's the second issue?
Well, the second issue is, and again, it's under standing orders, that I would like to move that the motions section is actually brought forward to the beginning of the meeting, because I have a motion in there. It's actually tonight will be the fourth meeting that it's on the agenda for, and it hasn't been heard yet. And where there were 4 motions on the previous agendas for July, and mine is the only one that has been resubmitted in time to be heard again tonight. So I would like to propose formally that it's actually brought to the beginning of the meeting. Now, I'm not going to speak long on the motion. I think the motion speaks for itself, but I would be happy to formally propose that it's actually brought to the beginning of the agenda so it can be dealt with and it's not pushed to another meeting at the risk of dropping off the agenda once more. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Chair, just to advise members that the order of business is set out in paragraph 12 of standing orders. So motions are actually dealt with at item M. So they're the penultimate consideration in any agenda. Any reviews to the agenda itself, Chair, would be at your sole discretion. I should also clarify, Chair, certainly, I know Councillor McAleer maybe in some communication and emails, just to advise around the submission of motions. So as he indicates, if a motion is not dealt with at a council meeting, it then has to be resubmitted. And again, there's specific provisions and standing orders for those matters. Members will be aware that our meetings have been taking longer than would be the norm. And certainly it is unusual not to get to motions or any other matters. So I would certainly suggest, Chair, that we would proceed with the agenda as presented, and I'm sure with members' cooperation, you'll get the full business covered.
Thank you much for clearing that up. Chief Executive, I would tend to agree. I think if nothing else, it might give an incentive to get through the meeting a little faster. But I'm content that this rather than getting messy, and chopping and changing the order of business, that we stick to the recommended order within the standing orders. Okay. I have a hand up here from Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I want to congratulate Emmett as well on his new son. Congratulations, double trouble, Emmett. I was going to second his proposal there, but you've went on ahead as well, so that's fine.
Okay. Councillor Deehan.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I want to add my congratulations to Emmett and to his wife Tanya on the birth of Emmett Og, and congratulations to you both, and you can look forward to some sleepless nights ahead. Well done. I was also going to ask, Chair, that you would consider Councillor McAleer's request to bring that item forward on the agenda. I quite appreciate what the Chief Executive has said in relation to the order of business, and under normal circumstances that would be appropriate. But I think Councillor McAleer raises a very good point, that this is the 4th meeting that he has attempted to raise this issue. This is an important issue. It concerns hate legislation. It's very important. And I think there are absolutely no guarantees that this motion will be heard today. So I would ask you to reconsider, Chair, bringing that motion ahead in the agenda, just given the exceptional circumstances that we find ourselves in with respect to this particular motion. So I would ask that you reconsider, Chair. Thank you.
Look, I'm happy enough that the order stands. I'm also sort of cognizant that the longer we sort of discuss this, the less likely it is that we get to it. But Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, Chair, I was just about to add my voice of congratulations to Councillor McAleer on another successful outcome, and I also wanted to add to his call for greater transparency. I believe that there are many matters which are being considered in behind closed doors, in effect, from the public. One of which will have caused dramatic, consequences to residents who are very concerned about the potential of fracking in recent times, and I'm sure will come up in this meeting subsequently. And in regard to the issue of bringing forward this motion, I would echo what Councillor Deehan has said. The issues that are at heart of this motion around abuse of women and misogyny are such that they should not be played as a political football, in effect, to which I take it from what has been said, that it acts as an inducement. That means that this issue has been lowered to simply a political football to make sure that we don't spend too long on any issues in terms of accountability and discussion. So I don't think that's appropriate, frankly. So I just would like to ask that, again, that this is such an important issue that it is brought forward. So thank you, Chair.
Well, the determination still stands, and I suppose, as I said, the longer we sort of go over this, the more time is soaked up. Councillor Armstrong. No, we might come back to you. Councillor Green.
Thank you. It was just there what the advice from the Chief Executive in around getting the meeting finished. I would like to remind everybody, when I went into Fermanagh Council in 2010 or 11, that there was 23 councillors in the council that time. And we went into meetings at 7 or half 7, and sometimes we didn't get out to 1 o'clock at night. So this isn't a new phenomenon. It's a problem that has always been caused or happened. It's nothing to do with councillors talking too much, because I think the scrutiny, actually, rather than too much scrutiny, there isn't enough scrutiny. So I would agree that these things, especially if they're really important, like the 2 motions tonight, should be heard and not be held to ransom to try and rush through meetings and not hold people to account.
Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. I agree with your assessment in regard to changing the order of business. I have to say that any motion coming forward before the council has a certain weight and importance. I would disagree that one is more important than others. I would disagree that there's not enough accountability given by councillors to the officers in regard to the business. And I would dispute Councillor O'Coffey's claim that we don't give enough accountability and that we are trying to hide things behind confidential items. I disagree with that totally. And I agree with your assessment. We have carried out business properly up until now, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with Councillor Green's that in Fermanagh District Council meetings took always 4 or 5 hours. They did not. There was maybe 1 or 2 that did that. We were pretty quick in dealing with the business effectively, efficiently, and in accordance with general rules of governance. So I would counter what a lot of the councillors have said already. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Swift.
Yeah, just very swiftly, I agree that the motion should be heard sooner rather than later. I would have a concern that they may not be heard, and they are extremely important. And given the fact that reviews were taking place, particularly on the misogyny one, I think it's timely that they are heard tonight. So I would ask you to reconsider the proposal made by Councillor McAleer, seconded by Eamon Keenan, to hear motions earlier, and if it needs to be put to all the members to vote on that, then so be it. Gurmagat.
Okay. It does not, by the way. Councillor Baird.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll come in here in support of my colleague, Councillor Irvine. He's more articulate than me in stating what the circumstances are. All motions are equally important. I don't see one motion being any more important than another. The standing orders state the order in which motions are taken. And again, in response to Councillor Green about how the business was conducted in the Legacy Fermanagh Council, extended meetings were the exception rather than the rule. Yes, occasionally they went over time, but as I say, they were the exception rather than the rule. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, wait, that's past. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm not going to hold the meeting up, but I agree with your assessment that we go to the normal order of business, and no motion is any more important than any other. So I agree with your assessment and the way you want to do your business, Chairman. And let's carry on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Erskine.
Chair, just to raise a wee point here, I was at the Code of Conduct training which took place, as I know many others were involved in that training as well. I do recall that it did say that the Chair's decision is final, and if you don't obey the Chair, you're actually in contravention of that. So maybe it would do well if members remembered that point.
Well, Councillor Erskine, I suppose it's very difficult for me because I don't know what an individual is to say before they say it. But I don't think any of the comments said before me were they were asking me to reconsider. They weren't necessarily going against it, but your points are noted and they are accurate. So I've got 3 hands still up, but those are 3 individuals who have already spoken as far as I'm aware, and I'm going to be quite strict that you're only coming in once on each item. So we're going to move now to item 2, which is to confirm the minutes of the reconvened council meeting held on the 20th of July 2020. And if I go through it page by page, and we've got 2 hands still up just to wipe the board there. Councillor Green, Councillor Baird. So if we go through it page by page. Page 1, Councillor Green. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, page 8 and page 9. Page 8, item 4.4 was in relation to the proposed All Ireland Health Service. The member proposed that the council write to the Departments of Health, both in the north and south of Ireland, and the Health and Safety Executive, the HSE. It wasn't actually Health and Safety Executive, it was the Health Service Executive, Ireland. And on page 9, it states, in response to a member's comments, the Chief Executive advised that in her opinion, in some cases, proposals have been made at recent meetings, particularly those of an ideological nature, would be better framed as a motion and submitted as such, to enable members time to consider them in detail. That was actually Councillor Michael Duff's input, not the Chief Executive's. Just a wee point of order.
Okay, I think those will be checked and amendments made accordingly. All right, Chief Executive. Yeah. Members are content, which I think they are. Okay, so page 9, 10, 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And if we take a proposer for, Councillor Thompson, yeah. I'm assuming that's a proposal.
Yeah, agreed, Chairman.
Yeah. Okay, proposed by Councillor Thompson, seconded. Feel free to shout out, guys. Seconded by
Councillor Deehan.
There we go, Councillor Deehan. So that's proposed and second. All in agreement? If not, please indicate now. Okay, that's passed. Okay, move to item number 3, which is the item number 3, which is the to confirm and sign the meetings of the council meeting held on 23rd of July. We go through it page by page. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It was just with regard to page 1, the expressions of sympathy. It's down here on the second paragraph. Councillor Thompson and Wilson stated that they wish to be disassociated with the expression of sympathy from Mr. Mitchell. I actually said myself and my party colleagues of the Democratic Unionist Party, just for that clarification, Chairman, and accuracy. Thank you.
We will amend that subject to checking the tape. Yeah, if members are content. Page 1, page 2, page 3. There's a lot of hands come up here. Councillor Swift.
No, I must have been too swift. It's page 4. If you take me back in there, Chris, thank you.
It's all right. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was page 3. Yeah, it was in relation to the report of the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, and it's in relation to the Necarn estate leasing arrangements. Matter of accuracy, I had raised not only that my opposition as stated there, but I also had raised a request, which I would like to see minuted, that that details are provided to the council of the actual proposals for that site, and I'm wondering why that was left off. Thank you, Chair.
Executive, do you want to?
Chair, certainly we can listen back on the recording. My recollection is this matter had been discussed at a number of meetings, including the Policy and Resources Committee meeting, and in that there had been specific discussions regarding the proposals, and therefore the matters were shared or discussed. So I think if Councillor O'Coffey is indicating on a point of accuracy that this minute is not reflective of the various actions that he had sought, we can certainly review that. But certainly all information in relation to this proposal has been provided in a very comprehensive nature to members.
Okay. Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's pages 3, 4 and 5, and I think I'm right in coming on under accuracy. It's in relation to Councillor Coffey and co-opted Councillor Keenan's position on Necarn, where at the meeting they said they dissented, but they didn't actually formally dissent, and then at the meeting took the opportunity to dissent from the noting of the meeting. I'm just wondering, is that correct procedure? It sounds to me like getting a double bite at the cherry.
Yeah, Chair, I suppose it was something that I had commented on at our last meeting. So generally, if a matter is coming before the council or a committee, it is at that meeting which members record their dissent. At our last meeting, Councillor O'Coffey had indicated that he had spoken against matters under discussion about Necarn and assumed that his dissent would have been recorded. So we clarified that that dissent could not be added retrospectively to the record, and it would be noted in the council minute, and I think I did advise at that meeting, Chair, that it was unusual to do business in that way.
Well, as I say, Chair, it sounds to me like a double bite at the cherry. Someone with Councillor Coffey's experience would expect him to know that you formally dissent. I suppose it's an excuse for co-opted Councillor Keenan, who's relatively new, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I suppose, let me see. Councillor Swift, your hand's still up, but I know it's for the next one. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. And I know Councillor Keenan probably is big enough to defend himself, but I think it a wee bit disrespectful for Councillor Baird to be calling him a co-opted councillor, because there's been a number of co-opted councillors over the years and they've never been referred to by that name. Just on that, and I'd be surprised if the chair let that go.
As I say, Councillor Keenan, I think now's probably the time for you to respond to that.
Yeah, as Seamus says, that's the first time I've ever tell of a co-opted councillor being way of addressing somebody, but I'm not easily offended. I'm thick-skinned. But as the Chief Executive said, both myself and Donal did believe we had dissented. Whether that was a misconception or whatever, it was rectified in the last meeting. But if the councillor wants to bring those issues up again, that's fine.
Okay. I've still got hands from. There we go. Councillor Green, your hand's still up, but I think you're probably done. Councillor Coffey, unless there's something substantive coming out the back of this, I'm sort of reluctant to let you back in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just in relation. First of all, I noticed my name was called out of order, so it's customary to be treated with some modicum of respect by colleagues on this council, but perhaps that is too much to expect, or you know. In any case, I wanted to come back to the Chief Executive. Really, my issue really was that, as I raised at the time, and I wanted this minute, not only have I spoke against the issue of Ní Charn at every conceivable opportunity. I spoke exactly as she said. That's not really what I wanted to raise here, though. My main issue is that, as Alison has said, the Chief Executive has said, that I was requesting specifically information as to what will happen to that site going forwards, because I do not believe that there is clarity sufficient to me as a councillor to have oversight of what is the proposal, because there's a large number of issues there. There has been a variety of timelines offered, and I would like to see some clarity along with a clear, concise timeline reflecting what will happen when, and some expectation, so that at least the local community and the wider community can have some confidence over the process. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Coffey, before you go, just in future, might it be handier for you, rather than just turn yourself off, if you've got something to come back at, that we deal with you in one block? So if you're going to come back with a sort of further asking for clarification, so just don't turn your mic off until sort of you're finished with your whole block, and then I can sort of more easily try and keep this keep it sort of to one interjection per item. That's grand. Yeah, thanks. Selena, you looking in?
Chair, if I may just respond, there was a further discussion on this issue on the 8th of July Policy and Resources Committee meeting, as members may recall. There was a request for further information by Councillor O'Coffey, which then prompted further debate amongst members about the level of information that had already been provided and over a sustained period of time in terms of ongoing reporting. However, whilst there was no conclusion specifically at that meeting, for the avoidance of any doubt, on the 23rd of July, I provided all members with a comprehensive timeline of all documentation, which does also include the proposals for the site, which also are reflected in the lease documentation, which is also included in the documentation that can be accessed from the email of the 23rd of July to all members. So I hope that does provide some clarity, that the information has been provided there and on quite most recently on the 23rd of July.
I think there's a dog in the background there. Okay, Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, let's just come back to this thing about Ní Charn. Like, this has been on the agenda of this council for a long number of years. We had come to the conclusion, and as Celine said, all the information that was needed was provided. One particular meeting, which I remember in the Boxer, in which George gave a very, very, very clear direction of the way they were going. I remember at that particular meeting when a lot of information was given out. Councillor O'Coffey wasn't at that meeting. You know, at the end of the day, the council have decided to go ahead with the lease with Gardrum. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the situation is concluded, and there's nothing more to talk about it. At the end of the day, let's move on.
Okay. Councillor Irvine.
Thanks very much, Chair. I would dispute the opinion being proffered by Councillor O'Coffey in that we haven't given enough governance or oversight in this matter. I think Celine has clarified the amount of detail that is been provided and recently been provided. So I would like to make it a matter of record that I do not agree, and there are several others who do not agree with the opinion proffered by Councillor O'Coffey. In actual fact, in my consideration, Councillor O'Coffey is getting to the stage of meddling in an executive item rather than a governance item. So I think he needs to reconsider his own position and see where he's going. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I would agree with Councillor Irvine there. And Councillor Warrington, in fact, this has been ongoing for a long, long time, and we have come to the decision. It's time to move on. Councillor Coffey coming in there and chirping at this all the time isn't the way forward. We need to see progress, and we've come to our decision. Let's move on this matter. And I talk on behalf of myself and all my party colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Warren, your hand's still up, but Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I missed the meeting in question, but to support Councillor O'Coffey and Councillor Keenan, I'd spoke on a previous meeting where councillors from other parties were full of praise for the agreement that has been reached in relation to Naomh Cearn, and alongside myself, those two councillors spoke quite strongly against it. So I'm quite surprised that there's any confusion or any sort of misinterpretation of their stance on this item. And I'll be honest, I take objection to Councillor Irvine's use of language there. I think he's overstepped the mark there in some of the accusations he's labelling at Councillor O'Coffey. So I would actually request that he maybe revisit his position and think about what he more closely before he speaks on it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm sure Councillor Irvine will consider that. I have no more hands, so I think that's the item concluded. Councillor Swift, you were looking on the next page, weren't you?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And it's on an accuracy matter. So the second paragraph on page 4, whereby there was a request for my proposal to stop the extradition of Liam Campbell to be referred back. For accuracy, Councillor Irvine did not say that he wanted it referred back for further consideration. It was just said that he would like that it be referred back to the committee. Now, whilst I had objected, because as you will remember, and on the night, even at PNR, I had stated clearly that the issue was time limited. And unfortunately, you had said another motion on a similar topic was to be heard later on, and you were anxious not to have the same debate twice. But the topic was definitely not anything like the proposal I had placed. So there are a few issues there for me, Chairman, and at this point now, that wording needs to be taken out, because while it's in the minutes, Councillor Irvine didn't say it, because I was actually waiting to hear why he wanted it moved back for further consideration. So could I perhaps please even have an answer on that now? And then when it comes back to matters arising, I will be raising a few other issues in terms of the code of conduct on the same. So if I could have an answer to that, please, Chairman, it would be appreciated.
Just before you go, so you are asking that.
So those minutes, as they stand, are not accurate. It said that be referred back to PNR meeting for further consideration. Councillor Irvine did not say that. He just said he would like that it be referred back to the committee. He didn't say why. So I would like to know why. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't obvious to me on the night, and especially when I made the objection, because I had said I would like the powers, council powers, to be exercised in a letter of support on the human rights issue that it was, and that it be drafted off immediately to the departments in the Republic of Ireland as a matter of urgency. But unfortunately, it has been referred back. So for those clarification points, and I'm not going to labour on it because we can discuss further on matters arising.
But just so we're clear, it's that sort of for further consideration is your sort of major concern, yeah?
That wasn't stated on the night.
Yeah.
So do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, yes. It's fairly implicit, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I'm being clear, in fairness, Chairman. I don't know how clearer I can be. Those 3 words were not stated. And actually, I'm sure not only I was waiting on a reason and rationale, I'm sure others were waiting also. And actually, there was a failure to come back to me on my objection. You went straight to vote because in your words, you said you were anxious, that you didn't want to have the same debate twice, but there wasn't going to be the same debate because the other motion that you referred to was totally different. It was a pathetic motion, but we'll come to that later on. But the clarification on that is required, Chairman, because it's not accurate. And I really don't want to sweat the small stuff on this, but I think I've been clear.
So, Executive, do you want to make a comment on that?
I think, Chair, quite simply, just as Councillor Swift is indicating, she is proposing that the minute just be amended to read as detailed on page 8 of paper D, be referred back to the Policy and Resources Committee, full stop. So if members are content with that amendment, as usual, we'd listen back to the record and amend accordingly.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Are members content that that is an accurate representation of Councillor Keenan?
Yes, I'd be content with what Bernice's recollection of it is, yeah.
Okay. Right. If anyone has a contrary recollection of it, please indicate now. If not, then it'll be amended subject to checking the tape.
Well,
Okay.
can I further just assure you, Chris, it's not just my recollection. I did go back and listen to the recording as well, so I can assure you of that.
Okay. Right. So I think that's passed. So we move on now. So that's page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Councillor Baird.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Page 9, the voting record on the lighting up. When I checked that there, I noticed my name was missing. But then one of my colleagues went through the audio and it would seem that my voice wasn't heard on the night. I think this is just one of the difficulties of the system we're having. I certainly was present and I recollect myself, I thought I had voted, but it's just to point out this difficulty in the system that we're having. If someone's not heard within a certain length of time, then it goes on to the next person. And I realise the administration of that, but I'm just wondering, is there any way, or whether anyone else had any similar problem with that? Mind you, I suppose had our motion on the reduction to the committee size been adopted, we wouldn't be in that position. We'd be having live meetings, but that's for another day.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Would you like for the tape to be relooked at, and if your name is, or if your vote is audible, then for the amendment? Is that stepping outside?
Well, as I say, one of the colleagues, I had the opportunity to do it, but when we were talking about it, he went through it for me and found out that my name was called, but my response was not audible.
Okay.
So I suppose there's nothing I can do about it now, and I voted for it. It was as simple as that. It wouldn't have affected the outcome overall, but it's just an unfortunate thing, and just it may happen to other people as well. It's just to make sure know that when we have the opportunity to vote, we can take it. Presumably the mute unmute thing was the issue. Leave it at that.
I think that's well. Look, I think it's just a technical issue, unfortunately. Councillor McCaffrey.
Kylie, just sorry, back to page 4, item 3.2, just in the around the childminder provision. So since our last meeting, there has been some progress on this. However, I want to propose that we make representations to the Education Minister.
Are you maybe in the wrong? I think that's accuracy. Can you come back in accuracy, sure?
Oh, apologies, Chair. Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. No, that's all right. So on page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page... Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chris. Page 13 is in relation to the proposal about the use of St Eugene's College to facilitate pupils from the area who are at other schools that may have problems with social distancing or may not. It says, on the proposal of Councillor Keenan, seconded by Councillor Swift, that representations be made to the Council for Catholic maintained schools to request the consideration be given to Eugene St Eugene College. Just a typo. It's actually the representations be made to the CCMS by the council.
Is that not right?
No, made representations made to the council for the CMS, but it's actually made to the CCMS.
To executive.
Just to clarify, Chair, so the acronym in full of CCMS is Council for Catholic Maintained Schools. So it was that we would be making, the council would make representations to the Council for Catholic Maintained Schools, CCMS.
Yeah.
So you just have their name in full.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's okay. Okay, right. So 13, 14, 15, Councillor Swift.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and it's on both pages 14 and 15. I'll come to the accuracy on page 15. First of all, it's about the 5th or 6th bullet point down where Councillor Warrington referred to 31 people, including 2 unborn children. It's 29 people, including the 2 unborn children. And I think that just actually demonstrated the lackluster approach to this motion, to not get the details and the very particular accuracies of what happened and who it affected, and the amount of people not to be correct is just shameful. So that needs to be corrected. The minutes are right, but actually, because that's what Victor Warrington did say on the night, but what he said was inaccurate, so that needs to be changed. I'll come to the second point then.
If we just take it sort of in turn, 31 people, including 2 unborn children. If Councillor Warrington does, as I do, count 2 unborn children as people, then that would be accurate. It's also accurate as to what he said, but I don't see the problem with that.
Are you for real? It's 29 people, including 2 unborn children.
Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Well, if Councillor Swift wants to go down this road of nitpicking out of what I said, as somebody who's very much pro-life and anti-abortion, I would have counted those 2 unborn children as human beings. So I stand over what I said. I said 31 people, which included 2 unborn children, just because they hadn't come into this world doesn't say that we couldn't count them as humans. So if Councillor Swift wants to start nitpicking at the motion now, 5-6 weeks on, it says more about her than it does about me. Thank you.
Wait a second.
That's actually on the night, the way it was said and stated, it sounded like that he was talking about additional, and I'm pro-life myself, Councillor Warrington, very much, and on record as having said that. So if what you're saying is that your total is 31, I accept that.
That's certainly how it reads to me. But whether it's accurate or not, I suppose that is what he said. So it would be an accurate minute.
If that's what he's saying now, but certainly the perception on the night was that he had that wrong, and it was interpreted in other areas as being incorrect. So I felt it was responsible to highlight it. Now, can I come back to the next point? You had slid on past page 14. So the actual motion, Chairman, I need it to be withdrawn and stopped for the simple reason the motion is inaccurate, and it's inaccurate on the second paragraph. And again, this comes back to the motion being rather fundamentally ignorant and again showing reckless disregard for whether the facts are true or false. So I just want to be erring very much on the side of caution. And it's on that paragraph where it actually says that Liam Campbell is subject to extradition proceedings, but on separate terrorism charges. It's suggested in that motion that Liam Campbell has been charged, despite the fact that the European arrest warrant makes clear that he's wanted for questioning. So we must clarify that he is not wanted for terrorist charges anywhere. And this council must note as well, as I did state a way back in my proposal, and I'm not nitpicking, I want to clarify that point, but we as a council must be very careful, because I am most certainly not agreeing to this motion going forward this night in its entirety. So therefore I would ask our council legal opinion to come in on that very point, because the petitioners of the motion have engaged in something that's just not factually correct. And it's not accurate to do so.
Okay. Well, if at this point, then I will ask Philip to provide a legal opinion.
Yeah.
Chair, I mean, I thought we were dealing with the accuracy of the minutes here, and that's a question of fact as to whether the minute is accurate or not. In terms of the motion going forward, it is a matter for the council to determine how it words the motion going forward. The outcome of the motion, the question is, does it fall within the council's powers as laid out in standing orders? And I think the outcome of the motion would fall within those powers.
Philip, the actual second paragraph, second line on separate terrorism charges, as I've said, and as I've said before, we just need to be very careful. And if we are to learn anything from the code of conduct training that took place a couple of weeks ago, we definitely need to be very clear. And that activity is alleged, whereas this wording on this motion actually states charges. I have plenty more to say, of which I will do under matters arising, but this is accuracy, and it should have been noted much earlier than tonight, I suppose. So I would ask Philip again, or if we need to seek a second legal opinion, I'm proposing that we do that. But certainly this should not be accorded tonight as accurate and factual, because it most definitely is not.
Chief Executive's looking to comment at this stage.
Okay, excuse me, Chair. Well, I appreciate Philip may comment subsequently. I suppose just the only point I was going to add is really what Councillor Swift maybe alluded to, Chair. The notice of motion that was before members was considered at the last council meeting on the 23rd of July, and then following a vote, members adopted that motion. The provision for the course of action set out in the motion to be paused would have been by way of a call-in, and no call-in was received. So the motion has been enacted as agreed by the council.
Well, that's the moot point there, and it is unfortunate that this didn't come to my attention until a late stage, but it's very unfortunate that it hasn't come to the attention of legal advice in advance. And I would just ask Philip again on the particular lines that I've highlighted. Is it proper and prudent that this proceeds?
Chair, I understand from Alison's comment that the matter has already been enacted, and therefore Councillor Swift's correct. It is a moot point. It has been dealt with. There are two mechanisms where there are errors made in the wording of motions in respect of that are identified at a later stage. One is by means of the call-in process, which begins whenever the action sheet is sent out to members. And the second option is to bring forward a rescinding motion. If Councillor Swift, however, believes that there's an inaccuracy at the present time, obviously her comments here tonight will be recorded in tonight's minutes of this meeting.
Yes, thanks for that, Philip. And I would need to be recorded as definitely not agreeing with that, as it's not accurate, and I would just be concerned that somewhere else down the line this could become a matter for concern. And I'll speak more on matters arising. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I'd be in agreement with Councillor Swift there about the warden of incorrect warden of it of Liam Campbell being wanted for terrorist charges, which seemingly is incorrect, and this could possibly have prejudiced legal terms for himself, and yeah, definitely be supporting Bernice in that. I think we're in a grey area there.
Okay, Councillor Barrington.
Thank you, Chair. It's funny the way this has been brought up almost, I suppose it's almost 6 weeks later now. There obviously, it would point to me that there's a lot of sour grapes there, that this motion actually went through on the night, and that it's obviously some individuals, which is obviously hasn't been Councillor Swift or Councillor Keenan, some of their aides has been trying to nitpick to get hold of it. But as said by the Chief Executive and by Philip, the motion on the night was passed, and you know the call-in procedure that was available to them, because they didn't realise that on the night, they didn't take that opportunity on board. So the thing has now went on. So I would say, yet again, sour grapes, move on.
That language is intolerable, Chairman.
No,
Intolerable.
hold on.
We'll have no more of that. And he said he attended training. He didn't learn much.
Hold on. Councillor Swift, there is a way to do this. I can't have people shouting over the top of each other, or else this will just descend. Councillor Michael Duff.
Okay, Chair, can I support the call for legal advice? We've received, initial legal advice from Philip, but can I seek legal advice in writing? And the legal advice would be on the competence or otherwise of the motion passed. Thank you, Chair.
Philip, do you want to comment on that?
No matter for the council, if legal advice is sought in writing, I can certainly provide it or arrange for it to be provided.
If that's a proposal, Chair, by Councillor Michael Duff, I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll just park that for the time being. It is a motion on the table. We'll let Councillor Gannon in first, and then we'll maybe come back to it. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we're on accuracy here, and I think what is in the minutes is an accurate and factual account of what happened. Whether it's right or wrong is another story, but it's accurate as in terms of what happened. And as has been said, there's been no call-in made. There was no amendment specifically for that wording on the night either. So no one raised that particular intricacy. Now, I never noticed it, but no one raised that on the night either. And they're talking about illegal actions. Illegal actions were proposed in the first proposal that brought this up, as in asking the Taoiseach to intervene, which goes against the Constitution of Ireland. But look, it's accurate to what was discussed, and of course, if we're discussing the legality of it and legal advice, that's another issue, Chair. Thank you.
Is that under accuracy? Yeah. Right. I am going to take the motion by Councillor Michael Duff for written legal advice at this stage now. Councillor Deehan, do you want to speak on this, or do you want to wait till after, just so I can clear this motion off the table?
Well, Chair, we're dealing with accuracy here, and I want to make a point on page 18. Surely, this proposal
Page 18.
correctly comes under matters arising.
Do you know what, Councillor Deehan, you're probably right. And if Councillor Michael Duff is happy to leave it until
I
Matt
accept
Rising,
that,
we can.
no,
Yeah, I think that makes sense, to be honest. Councillor Deehan, you did say, Councillor, page 18.
18. Chair, may I take this now?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you. So it's page 18, and it is following agreed on the proposal of Councillor McCann, etc. Further discussion ensued, during which members made the following comments. The first two bullet points reflected some of the discussion, some of the points that I made, and it certainly does not reflect what the points that I made. And in particular, the second bullet point, which reads, the minute reads, this was a disingenuous attempt to link support for the Omagh bombers and human rights. What I actually did say was it was a disingenuous attempt to link concern and assertion of human rights with support for the Omagh bombers. The two do not follow, and they should never have been linked. So I would like that corrected to reflect the discussion. It's important, Chair, because on the fourth bullet point, there is a comment which says it was deeply upsetting that some members had displayed support for terrorists as a result of supporting the proposal regarding Liam Campbell's extradition. And that is patently not the case. And that was the point that I was making, that it is not correct to equate any concern or assertion of human rights for whomsoever with support for the Omagh bombers. That's clearly not the case. So I would like that corrected, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, just Catherine, the way I'm reading this is that those are sort of general comments and not necessarily looking at yours individually. I, from memory, do recall other members saying the fourth bullet point, but I do take your point on the second.
I think it's important, Chair. Thank you for letting me in. It's very, very important to clarify this, because this will go down as a record of our debate. And I, for one, do not want to be associated with any support for the Omagh bombers, but I do want to assert my concern for human rights. For example, I do not support the death penalty. I support human rights and the assertion of human rights for everyone, regardless of what charges or what crimes they may have committed. Thank you.
Yeah, as I say, I don't think that, I think that is an accurate representation of what other members did say, whether you disagree with it or not, but I do take your point on the second. Councillor Michael Duff, your hand's up. Is it up from before or okay? Councillor Swift.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And just very quickly, and it's on the similar points that Councillor Deehan has just raised. And because of the minute and the way it is drafted, and I'm not contesting the current pages, but it is really the inflamed language that was used on the night. And there are areas that aren't minuted, but are in the recordings on YouTube, where it is stated that we have supported a terrorist and other inaccuracies. So once again, I just caution on the fact that my proposal then became greatly distorted. A human rights proposal on humanitarian grounds to stop the extradition of Liam Campbell was linked and paralleled to the Omagh atrocity, which was definitely not the case and not meant to be the case. Everyone knows, and everyone knows that the Omagh civil judgment was a lesser standard of proof, the balance of probabilities, rather than beyond all reasonable doubt. And that did not help the victims, as we know. But I've already raised this issue with the Chief Executive about the minutes, and while the minutes are lengthy and everything else, and they attempt to give a reflection, the fact that the recording says something different than a lot of the minutes, and a lot of what some others have said isn't minuted, means that there are a gap. And as Councillor Deehan says, this is now public record, so we need to be careful going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I suppose as a way to sort of to come to some kind of conclusion to this, I would suggest that the way to get over this is that subject to the recording being checked. The second bullet point is amended to encompass the sort of the nuance of what Councillor Deehan said. As regard to the fourth, I do believe that's an accurate minute. However, if the recording is checked and no member said that, then it also should be amended. Would the Chief Executive be content with that?
Yeah, Chair, just as you've summarised there and members maybe have alluded to, we don't do a verbatim minutes. The intent is that they reflect the tenor of the discussion. I mean, clearly there have been a number of matters highlighted in the course, particularly of this section of the minute, which we will review, and happy to take the direction of members, but that we would listen to the recording, and if there's obvious inaccuracies, they would be amended accordingly.
Okay. Councillor Warrington?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in again. Can I just ask what the benefit to this will be of getting written legal advice from, as Alison has said?
Well, Councillor, in fairness, if we're going to go for we're going to deal with that in matters arising. Sorry. So maybe if you just hold those comments till we come to that point. I think that has sort of concluded off. The record will be checked to see if there are inaccuracies, and will be checked to sort of capture the nuance of individuals' statements. So we missed page 17, but we go 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Do I have a proposer and a seconder for this here? You can just unmute yourselves and say verbally. Do we have a proposer?
I'm quite happy to propose.
Okay, that's Howard, yeah.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Robinson. Anyone who wishes to go against that, please indicate now.
Yes, I go against it for now, but I am happy that under matters arising it's being further considered.
Okay. On that, I think that's the minute adopted. If we now move to declarations of interest, yes, to declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Well,
Yeah, Chair.
Councillor Deehan, yeah.
Yeah, item 9.3, Chair, the Chief Planner's update as a member of the Planning Committee. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to record a similar, please. Councillor Warrington, your hand's up, but it might be from previous. Yeah, Councillor Wilson.
8.1, Chair, the grants panel.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. 8.1 as a member of the grants panel and 9.3 as a member of the planning committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Irvine.
Item 9.3, Chair of the Planning Committee.
Okay. Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, 8.1, the grants panel.
Okay. Councillor Maguire. Councillor Maguire, you're still muted.
Sorry, the new design confused me there, Chair. Go to me. 8.1, the grant aid panel, 9.3, the planner report as a member of the committee. Go to me.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, Chairman, 9.3 is a member of the Planning Committee.
Okay. Councillor Thornton.
8.1, Chair, grant aid appeals.
Okay. Councillor O'Reilly.
9.3 as a member of the Planning Committee.
Okay. Councillor Rainey. Councillor Rainey. We'll maybe circle back to you. I'm assuming it's for the planning, but we'll circle back to you then. It's up here as Anne.
Yeah.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, 8.1, I think it's the grant aid panel as well, Chris. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Coyle.
9.3 because of the planning committee, please, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair. 9.3, member of the planning committee as well.
Yeah. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. 9.3, the member of the planning committee. Thank you.
Okay. If you've hands down, if you're done. Councillor Buchanan.
8.1, please, Chair. Grant aid appeals panel. Thank you.
Okay. I will now try and swing back to Councillor Rainey.
9.3.
Got you. Good show. Okay, we've got 4 hands up, but Councillor Riley, no.
Yeah, just to make the point here, Chair, that Alex covered it, or I mentioned it just about him not being recorded, and I too were at least not heard or recorded at a vote. And you can see there just from that interaction how people don't get. And I'm just making the point that maybe when Alison is reading out the list, so that there's a conscious effort made that sometimes it's taken people longer to unmute and get recorded, and we seem to be missing a few people at different occasions.
That's okay. We'll try and be mindful of that. So we've got 4 hands up: Councillor Campbell, Councillor Rainey, and Councillor Fitzgerald. I'm assuming you're all done. So if you could lower your hands, please. Yeah. Okay. So we move on to now to item 5, matters arising for the reconvened council meeting on the 20th of July. And if we go through it page by page, page 1. Councillor Swift.
No, I'm on page 2. So
no, don't need to come back to you. Go to page 2. Come on.
Okay, right. I'm obviously adopted to this new interface very quickly. Anyway, you've become very quick too, then, Chris. It's point number 3.2.1 regarding the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, and arising from, I suppose, the publicity from the last meeting about small rural farmers, etc., etc. I was contacted by farmers in my area in relation to the ongoing flooding in the Bow and Lower Derrygonley area. I have already provided a solution and resolution that I want to see to take place immediately to the Drainage Council, NI, and I'm seeking corporate support here tonight amongst all of those who sit on the Agriculture Liaison Committee with me and everyone else interested in rural farming, and to sort out the flooding problem. And to that end, I would ask that people support the request that the farmers have made for the water course in the area, in the unique area of the most problematic river, the Sillies River in Northern Ireland, that a more frequent maintenance takes place. The criteria at the moment is every 6 years. I've asked for the possibility for a solution for every 3 years in an effort to help. And another viable solution that I discussed with the farmers at a recent meeting with rivers and roads officials was a consideration to be given that the level of the loch was requested now to be brought down from 151 foot to 150, which is an extra foot of capacity to maintain the high rise flooding problem which impacts that area. Farmers gave much evidence on the day of the meeting with officials, and naturally when they hear and see other areas being treated somewhat differently, naturally they feel disenfranchised, as was the challenge that we made many years ago when the criteria didn't fit the people in Bow who were not compensated. And farmers have already highlighted the issue that they are very much left in devastation and financial hardship. The very fact that the summer season now sees heavy flooding in the Bow area means that farmers don't get their second cut of grass for their winter fodder, which is a necessary requirement, which again in turn creates hardship. So, giving voice on behalf of all my rural farmers in the area, I'm seeking the support for the council to further support my request to the Drainage Council to be carefully considered, because all of these will become policy and legislative matters. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Next on my list is Councillor McCloughy. Nope.
I'm in here, Chris, to second that, and Anthony here.
Well, Bert's in first, just. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I would agree with the previous councillor. There is a lot of areas in 6 Mile Cross, Gorton and that have suffered seriously from flooding. I would also like to express my concern that has been concerned about the last meeting here, 321, regarding small rural farmers that would be disadvantaged in the allocation of funding from the COVID-19 support package on a religious or political basis. This is a political myth. Farmers from the dairy, sheep and beef sector, they're on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, tending their stock at unsociable hours. And this pandemic has caused them serious problems, as it is causing difficulty even getting somebody to help on a farm. The package proposed is near enough similar to the package by the Southern Government, and I do not think they will be accused of discrimination. Councillor Green said that if he was wrong in a statement, then he would apologise, and as an industry that is non-political, I believe that the councillor should withdraw his remarks and apologise. And contrary to the perception that some councillors were putting across, it was Councillor Green who raised the orange and green aspect, not me, and the minutes clearly show this. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Green, because you've been named, I'm going to bring you in here. It's probably more appropriate than sort of waiting till the end.
I actually considered long and hard about whether to report Councillor Wilson for conduct, code of conduct that he used the old unionist ploy of that Catholics were stupid, that there were non-workers, that there were all sorts of things that he accused me the other night of, and I decided against it, that I wouldn't get that petty, but I'll stand by what I said, because I have seen the ANC being cut off, where 70% of the farmers affected were from the Nationalists. I have seen again the hill farmers this time being completely ignored on this here. Virtually zero hill farmers benefited from this. So I'll leave my statement as it was, and maybe I will reconsider the code of conduct thing of what he did, because it was a completely sectarian thing that he said to me, and basically the old unionist thing that Catholics are lazy, stupid, and don't do anything.
But there is a place for this, and I don't think it's this council. I mean, I think you've said your part. It's probably best to park this one here. And Councillor Green's got his response in, so I think that's there are other places to continue that debate. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't think Bert or Seamus did second Bernice's proposal, so I'd be seconding that, because I got a few phone calls for some of the Bow farmers, probably not as many as Bernice is getting now, but there's a few up there was ringing me about this flooding, and I know it's a major issue up there. Flooding around Garrison around here too wasn't fully as bad. I know there was a lot of fees flooding going second cut, and that wasn't most. I'd like to second Bernice on that, and to keep the pressure on the Danish board. Just a few comments there. I'm just gonna. The minute is right here. Seamus did say that, but there was other about there, but there was other farmers that council did support Seamus that night, including myself. So I think the minutes are right there with that. But about the funding that we didn't get, and I heard on the grapevine there's another pot of money supposed to be coming from England in October. So I would be hoping that we would be writing back again, if that does come, to get some money for the hill farmers, because we have been left out definitely. So I was just hoping that if there does come any more money, because I know there was 7 million supposed to be left the last time from that money that Minister Poots was giving out, and I'm not sure that any of that was it all finalised, was it all give out. But if there's any more coming in October, we'd want to be on the ball and try and definitely get someone for the hill farmers again, especially with this bad weather that started now, and it's going to be a very early winter. But I just want to second Bernice's proposal. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Councillor McCloughy.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, that's COVID-19 support package is a major topic, and I'm going to declare an interest as a hill farmer myself. However, on the 9th of June, when Declan McAleer raised the motion at Stormont, which both Gemma Dolan and Rosemary Barton spoke on, religion was never mentioned in reference to hill farmers. Traditionally, hill farmers sell the stock in the autumn, weanlings and store animals. Simple economics tell us that if beef and lamb finishers lost money, they will have less money when purchasing in the autumn. I've yet to see animals marked Catholic or Protestant, and buyers paying more or less depending on the religion of the seller. Minister Poots himself said the compensation was to cover a clear loss, and he was restricted by European Union rules and how he paid it out. He also gave the House an undertaking that he was happy to come back later in the year, after we had a period of sustained poor prices over the summer and autumn time, to approach the Finance Minister again on that basis, so that upland farmers who usually in the main show their animals in the autumn time and the suckle calf sales, if demonstrated that there's a substantial hit, I'd be very happy to go to Conor Murphy and say this is carried on right through the consequences of what happened as a result of COVID, and in the early part of this year have carried right through to the autumn time. It has hit the suckle farmers in particular, and I would be happy to push for funding. As I don't sell store lambs or weanlings, I cannot comment on current prices, but I would hope funds are released quickly to compensate finishers who will be purchasing these animals in the autumn. I'd also hope that our Agricultural Liaison Committee will work together to bring forward a business case for compensation if it is shown that it is needed.
Okay, Councillor McCloughy. Thank you. Councillor Sean Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. There's a number of things back to Councillor McCloughy and Councillor Green there. And I should be declaring an interest in it, but only highlighting a lot of. I come from a very high area and a mountain area. A lot of the farmers are saying they got nothing off that there. I just want to put that in. But I want to come back, and I would support Bernice, Councillor Swift there, about on the river agency. The area that I, and Councillor Wilson as well, the area that I represent outside the 6 Mile Cross, there was untold damage done through flash flooding since I came on the Legacy Council in 2011. I don't know how many times it was flash flooding since that there. Not alone households, a lot of things. A lot of ground and land along the river was destroyed and washed away in the flash flooding. Now, I had a meeting with the river agency around that time, after maybe 2011, 2012, and they assured me, that there's nothing they could do, and we put up a good case. Farmers, I'm sure Rainey was at the meeting. The farmers were, all protesting and saying, look at the damage that we've done, blah, blah, blah. But they were rest assured, that they're supposed to accept it, that they couldn't, they couldn't do a lot on the ground. Yet with all, on my travels, I see on my way into Omagh where the rivers I have highlighted before, and it's very frustrating for me and for elected reps. You see where River Agency had done a major job on farms on long river banks, and yet with all along that there area that I represent, it is frustrating. So I will be supporting Councillor Swift on that proposal, that money for all that stuff there. Lovely. Thank you very much, Councillor or Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Green, your hand's still up, but I'm going to go to Councillor McCaffrey first because I don't think he's been in yet. Councillor McCaffrey.
Gurmogit, Caroline, I just want to come in very quickly because I know Councillor McCloughy had referenced restrictions
placed by the European Union on what the Agriculture Minister could dish out. However, I would be very sceptical of that. I'd like to know exactly what restrictions, what directions were given by the European Union which restricted any money going to hill farmers, because as the previous speakers have all referenced, I have known many hill farmers who could not avail of this scheme and who were left without any government support throughout the crisis, and in fact only for the cattle marts opening and showing creative ways of how to keep the agriculture trade going in the COVID crisis. Many suckler cow and hill cow farmers would have been left entirely on their own without any government support and without any direction from the department. So I would just be very sceptical of somehow and also Fine Gael had also quoted European restrictions when they talked about the cross-border payments for workers living in the 6 counties and working in 26 counties, and as was confirmed to our MEP Chris McManus afterwards, that was total lies. So that's why I'm very sceptical when I hear about vague European regulations which restrict a minister doing anything. And in fact, to be honest with you, Councillor Green's comments were entirely accurate and correct on the night, and I would also, as I did on that night, I would support them, and I would agree with the previous speakers, Councillor Green or Councillor Feely as well there. Cormagat.
Okay. I've got no more indications. There was a proposal on the table. Anyone who wishes to dissent from that, please indicate now.
Chair, if I may just clarify, just given the wider discussion, Councillor Swift's proposal, which has been seconded by Councillor Feely, is extremely specific to the River Sillies and to the wider Bow area. So I know members have introduced a number of other places, but just to be aware of that, that is the only recommended course of action at this point.
No, that's the proposal as it stands.
And I've sent Alison the wording of that just via email there now, Alison. Okay,
yes,
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Have that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Chair. Well, I would ask the Councillor if she would include 6 Mile Cross, Beera. There's been houses flooded out there twice, and coming into the winter, it should have been sorted out years ago. The meadows, yes, there were flood walls built and it secured that area, but there are a lot of Gorton. There's houses.
I'm going to just step across you just for a wee second. Might it be a better idea to make that a separate proposal rather than roll it in with what is a very specific sort of proposal by Councillor?
I don't mind.
I think that might be better.
Councillor Donnelly spoke about it as well, and he's aware of it and Councillor Rainey has been at these meetings. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so just so you just to clarify, so a separate proposal that we write to DFI Rivers in relation to the sort of 6 Mile Cross area.
Yes, and why Bracky Bridge hasn't been replaced after 3 years and 400,000 sitting with the drainage board and nothing has been done about it.
That's well, if you leave that out, there's a specific part about Bracky Bridge maybe later that might be more. So
that's fine.
Yeah.
So Gorton area as well as 6 Mile Cross.
Okay. Councillor Michael Ear.
Yeah, just very briefly come in to second the proposal by Councillor Wilson there.
Grand.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly, same thing, yeah.
That was just I was going to second the 2 seconds.
Grand job. Councillor Clark, same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we got 2 proposals on the table. We'll take them separately. Councillor Swift's proposal, which is, and I'm going to the Silly River?
Sillies, Chair.
Sillies River.
It's specifically regarding the upgrading the maintenance of the watercourse to more frequent clearance from 6 years to 3 years, and also the proposals that the level of the loch be reduced from 151 feet to 150 foot, and that representations are made to the Drainage Council regarding those matters.
Excellent. 2 more indications, but unless they're specific to this here, I'm tempted to just go to a vote. Councillor Coffey.
It's related to this, but it would probably be best to vote first.
We'll come back to you then. So we'll clear these two proposals first. So the first one it's just been elaborated by the Chief Executive. Anyone who wishes to not be in support of that, please indicate now. Nope. Okay. And the second one by Councillor Wilson in relation to the 6 Mile Cross and Gorchin. Anyone who wishes to not be or to vote against that, please indicate now. Nope. Okay. Councillor Coffey.
Okay, thanks, Chair. It's just a very interesting conversation there about flooding. I was talking to a resident in Enniskillen who had an issue of flooding on Saturday, and it was not water that was flooding her house, it was sewage. And this is an ongoing issue, and I want to reuse. I was going to raise it later on, but I'm going to raise it here because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a number of proposals to make. It's in Gallia Shore, which I know other councillors are well aware of in Fermanagh area, also MPs, MLAs. This is an estate which is really being abandoned as far as I can see. They're looking for help in every direction. I raised it with the Chief Executive and with Celine, and I just want to raise it because I think these are residents who are paying rates. These are residents who are working class people who are really struggling to get by, and they're being accosted with huge costs. Now, the reality is, on Saturday, sewage was coming out of the roads, coming out onto people's patios. There was children around them. This is a major health concern. There's runoff into Loch Gallia, which leads directly into Lough Erne. Now, I think we as a council have a responsibility. These people, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we pick up the entire cost, because that has to go to the insurer of the property speculator who's now collapsed. But I would suggest, and I would propose that this council would at least commit ourselves. It's a matter of weeks, I believe, until we get some clarity around responsibility from the insurer. And I would like to propose that this council at least clears the costs at this stage. 1, of the testing of the ground sampling. 2, to cover the costs of removing the slurry that is, or sewage that is building up, so that this does not happen again. We don't have children being kept away from sewage on our streets of our town. And 3, that we write to the Minister for Infrastructure, who as yet has not even answered a repeated email from myself, and I'm sure other councillors, Tommy Maguire knows involved in this. We're looking for just clarity. Where is the department's role on this? There's a need to, we cannot abandon a community in the heart of Enniskillen to what's happening. So I want to make that proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Chief Executive.
Yeah, well, Chair, I have been in contact with Councillor Coffey, as he's indicated. I suppose just to highlight, the first 2 elements of the proposal are not something that the council can undertake. So we cannot contribute to the costs, and we cannot proceed with the removal of the slurry. We certainly can write to the Minister for Infrastructure around the departmental responsibilities. This is certainly a very distressing and regrettable situation, but it is a civil matter between a developer, who I accept has gone bust, the relevant competent authority, which is Northern Ireland Water, and the Department for Infrastructure.
Donald, just as I said last time, maybe don't just turn the mic off. Just keep going. If
Yeah, you, Chair. I will endeavour to do so. I don't think that we as a council, as a body corporate representing the community, the ratepayers in this area, can abandon this community. Can abandon these. There's a moral right. There's a moral right here. There's a public health issue. We have a responsibility for public health. This is something that we could bridge the gap. We actually have an interest here in making sure that the insurer covers the cost of this. This is an insurer's liable. This is a disaster. In a sense, how did these people be sold houses that wasn't even finished? Did we sign off on them as a council? I don't know. A lot of these questions I want to find answers to. But one of the things we can do, we're a matter of weeks now away from a possible solution, and I just think we should, as a council, I want to propose. I've made a proposal, and I believe that we as a council have to consider that. We can't. These are ratepayers. These are people that's looking for help here. Thank you.
I suppose, just my only point of clarification is the initial parts of the proposal are not something that we can legally do as an authority. We can intervene by way of representations, by way of the relevant statutory bodies, but we cannot engage in financial underwriting of costs as the member is suggesting.
Yeah, Councillor Coffey, I suppose it's a responsibility on me here not to let the council do something that is beyond its veres. I am going to suggest that I will accept that proposal if you take out the first 2 parts. Otherwise, I'm going to have to rule it as out of order. So it's entirely up to you whether you want to keep it the way it is. Or...
Chair, can I ask, how is it that we don't have the power to do this? We have a power of general competency, which gives us general powers in relation to matters which are fallen between the stools of other authorities. And I can't see why, for ratepayers who are paying full rates on these houses, we can't do something minor. It's only a few £1,000s potentially. It's not a huge sum.
Hold on.
Sorry, Chair, that's not correct. It's where there is not another statutory body. There is a statutory body in relation to this, albeit, as the councillor has indicated, those statutory bodies have not intervened. So we cannot, and that was actually made very clear in the guidance that was provided to councillors recently.
Don't know, my decision still stands. If you keep your proposal the way it is, I'll rule the whole thing out of order. I'm prepared to let the proposal stand with the exception of the other two bits, but it's up to you. Just jump in, like it's up to you whether you want to.
Can I make two proposals then? The first one is that the first two parts that the council steps in, and the second one we write to the minister, because I want to ensure we at least write to the minister. But I'm calling on other councillors. This is something I think that we have to do as a council. This is
well, the second proposal I'm going to rule as out of order.
Chair, could I perhaps suggest, if Councillor O'Coffey was so minded, and I do appreciate the spirit in which it has been presented, that we would report back on the matters where Council can provide assistance, particularly in relation to any public health concerns which would emerge.
Councillor O'Coffey.
Well, I would like to hear what other councillors have to say in this matter, but I certainly would like to include as a proposal that we have advice, because I think the council has an interest here to defend our ratepayers who are left in an absolutely horrendous situation. And I'm sure every other councillor thinks like that, and I don't see how this is ultra vires. I'd like to see legal advice on that, actually.
Fair enough. Philip, if you're prepared to step in here, if not, we'll get it in the.
Chair, simply to say that I think the position's been articulated by the Chief Executive already, and you've made your ruling in relation to those aspects of the motion.
So, Councillor Coffey, I feel I have no choice but to rule the second one. So, I mean, there's a proposal here by the Chief Executive, which, if you're happy to jump on, that would be that Council will report. Does that need a proposal, or is that just
Chair?
Go on. Well, wait 1 second. Just let me finish this point.
Sorry, Chair. It was just a suggestion by which we could provide guidance on where the council can intervene on matters of public health, if that would be in any way helpful.
Okay, Eamon. Sorry, Emmett's first. Sorry, Emmett. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, completely in support and agreement with Councillor Coffey. I think the council here has a duty of care to the residents of that particular area of Fermanagh. I'm disappointed to hear what's coming back. It's reminiscent of a previous motion that Councillor Coffey took in relation to the Department for Communities and the provision of the food parcels for the local area, that we seemingly don't have power, or we don't have the ability to provide surplus support or additional support where it is most needed by our residents. And I think that is very disappointing to hear that. But no, just to confirm my full support for Councillor Coffey, I've heard some very harrowing and distressing tales of this particular park in question. And I think we should really be doing all that we can do that. And as Councillor Coffey's quite rightly said, the burden of repairing and sorting out these issues should fall with the contractor and their insurance company. So whether it's a case of council providing that assistance, maybe with a view to having it recouped financially further down the line, but I think the health and well-being of the public should be put before sort of the cost of this. Thank you, Chair.
Just before you go, so you've said you're in support. Can I take that as a seconder for the two?
Yeah, it's happy to second both. Yeah.
Okay, right. Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I fully support Donald's motion, and I understand the council's taken a position that this is a private developer, and the onus is on them and other bodies. But Donald's leave, this developer has got signed off from the planning permission. These are rates payers. It is an urgent health and safety matter. I do believe the council should have a part to play. We're leaving ourselves open here for further unscrupulous private developers, whether through fault of their own, to go bust. We're leaving ratepayers open to this sort of stuff. I think the council needs to take action.
Okay. Councillor Blake.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I was having trouble there on muting. But I have to, well, if I agreed with some part of Donald's original motion there, which was writing to the ministers, because I do think it's an absolutely scandalous situation in the 21st century that any family should have to live through that. And what they're seeing, the photographs that a number of us received, that what's happening around there is a totally disgraceful situation. So in terms of writing to the Minister for Infrastructure, I totally support that, and reiterate then also by adding that we write also to the Minister for Finance to provide additional funding to DFI to deal with this, because it is disgraceful that the way it's done. And I'm beginning to lose faith in so many ways that does anybody in Stormont actually care, when the amount of people that have been receiving correspondence from these residents and are not providing any kind of response to them. I think it's disgraceful in terms of what's happening in Stormont, that they're not responding to these people, but also the fact that they haven't provided any kind of assurances to them either. So,
okay. I'm going to take as a third proposal just to write to the Minister for Finance, I believe. Councillor Maguire.
Whereas I agree with the sentiments of everything that has been said, I'm not so sure that the high emotions are really going to get the result that the residents require. I have been on top of this situation, hardly on top of it, but been chasing it for up on 9 years now. And when I received the email the other night with the very desperate looking scenes that were photographed and sent out by email, I made my way around to the area and spoke to the residents on Saturday evening. Further to that, I had another conversation with residents around there this morning, and I made a proposal that may alleviate their immediate situation. I'll not quote on it. Hopefully it will bear fruit. But further to that, as regards writing to ministers, the email was copied in to the first and second first ministers. Every minister has been lobbied on this issue. Michelle Gilden, myself, and Gemma Dolan and other councillors attended the public meeting to try and highlight the situation. It's a legal matter. It's a complicated matter. We have been given the position of the council in regards to what they can and cannot do previous to this. It's the only thing, and the sad thing about this is not the only street in our district that suffers in the same way, and it's the greed of those contractors and the lack of bonds that they put in place that has resulted in the hardship of these poor people in Enniskillen and across our district. All I can say is, in reassurance to the people of that particular street, I certainly have been chasing it, our MLAs have been chasing it, and indeed we're hoping, and there has been engagement with the second First Minister, and hopefully she will get herself personally involved. That was an assurance I was given just today. So hopefully it can be forwarded. It's a desperate situation. Motions and calling for the council to do things that really we cannot do. The blame needs to be fairly left at the feet of these greedy contractors who failed to put bonds in place. And the residents around there are aware of that. And they're aware of what we're doing in trying to alleviate their situation.
Thank you very much. Now, I have probably about 10 speakers lined up for this. Look, you're entitled to come in, but certainly I don't foresee much sort of I don't see any contrary opinions coming forward. Councillor Blake, you've already been in, I think. Your hand's up. Councillor Maguire. Councillor McCloughery? No.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I mean, I don't want to detract from the seriousness of the residents in Enniskillen and their particular problem, but this is a problem across the whole district, and I know they're blaming greedy contractors, but sometimes I've got to question what exactly solicitors are doing when they're doing conveyancing, because before somebody buys a property, the solicitor's supposed to make sure it's all legal and watertight, and you've got to question what they are doing as well. Are they just rubber stamping stuff and sending it on and lifting their money handy? Because these people have no legal recourse to any systems to get what is purely a totally defective sewage system repaired, and that has to be a scandal as well. I don't know. Do we bring the Law Society down and ask them what recourse they have with solicitors, or it's not just contractors. They're bad, but solicitors are just as bad. They're involved in the conveyancing.
Okay. Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thanks for letting me in. I'll be very brief, Chair. Just it's quite interesting to note that some of the parties that approved massive pay raise for themselves up in Stormont week are the ones that are kind of defending that we shouldn't actually be contributing to looking after our own residents here in Fermanagh here. So it's just saying that's quite interesting to note there.
Chair, I think a response is required.
No,
there.
hold on. No, I know you want to, but it's not really relevant. Maybe at the end, but I want to see how we get through this. Councillor Maguire. Hold on.
Me to say it wasn't relevant, Chair Gurmayanga.
Councillor Gannon, have you been in before? Don't think so. No.
No, I haven't been in before. Thank you. Just coming in mainly to second Councillor Blake's proposal there. Ultimately finance is needed to help fix this, and it's one of the many things needed to help fix this issue. And as has been touched on by other councillors there, this is an issue that goes beyond just this one particular area. I know myself having similar issues with sewers in Garrison. And ultimately, the fault does, as Tommy has said, lie with those greedy developers who haven't put in the proper sewerage or the proper bonds, and it's something that's going to become more prevalent in coming months and years. So it's a massive issue for the district, and it's something that we desperately need sorted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I totally agree with the previous speaker. And one thing's sort of worrying me here, this issue, if we take the wrong stance, it could have future repercussions. Like everyone's talking about greedy contractors, greedy solicitors. But I'm sure when this development first came into place, they could planning, and I'm sure it was signed off. So if we just wash our hands with that, we leave ourselves open in the future with other, let's say contracts is coming up, we're looking at mining, fracking, or we're just going to sign it off and then wash our hands when it goes wrong. I think we need to take action.
Well, that's sort of a separate issue. Councillor Michael Duff.
It's not.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just would invite the Chief Executive after tonight's meeting to reflect maybe on a decision that is already taken by the Council in respect of this. Some months ago, I proposed a kind of a workshop that the Council might organise for ourselves as councillors to equip us to deal with situations like this. It's quite correctly being said that all over Fermanagh and Omagh district, there are many examples of developments which are not completed. For example, the surface condition on the way in, the street lighting, landscaping not completed, bins then don't be lifted. I've numerous examples in mind. I've raised the one about street lighting in Killyclahar Heights. I know Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald has also. But I think we need the input of Department for Infrastructure. They have a particular unit or a section which deals with unapproved or uncompleted developments, legal input as well. And I think prior to COVID, this is not negligence on the part of the officers or anything like it, but I think that we agreed as a council to arrange a meeting to discuss this particular problem and how councillors can best serve their constituents. So I just would reiterate that suggestion that we action that early in the autumn to benefit us all and how to advise and represent people. I have half a dozen examples in my own mind at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Chief Executive.
Yeah, Chair, no, happy to comment on that. And just Councillor McElduff is quite correct. But I suppose the other component of that was in advance of such a workshop, we would have the details from NI Water and DFI Roads in relation to the current status of those developments which are unadopted and the timeline or the matters outstanding. We have had an initial response from DFI Roads and no response from NI Water in relation to the requested information, but we will certainly follow up again, Chair, to allow the workshop to take place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may I just comment on one, because I think there's something that's maybe been perhaps overlooked by a couple of members in their comments. There's a view maybe being expressed that the council is expressing some discretion in what it is doing or not doing. The reality is this matter is outside of the council's competence. It's ultra vires. My understanding was you had ruled on that accordingly. On the basis of the legal and other advice received. So while members are coming in seconding and saying that's the course of action, that matter has already been ruled out of order.
No, you're right. Unfortunately, I sort of don't know what people are going to say before they say it. Councillor Feely's up next, I think, and Councillor Michael Duff, your hand's still up, just.
Thank you, Kay Hurley, and I'll be very brief here because it must be a case of great minds think alike. For I was coming in the exact same stuff as Councillor Tommy Maguire there about the greedy estate agent selling the houses. And if the people, nobody should be buying a house until it's completely finished off and everything's signed off. Because we, as Councillor Gannon mentioned earlier on, I've been working with that same handling from I got elected with a housing estate in Garrison. Ravensbrae is called, with the sewer captivity and full, and the water is starting to seep in the Lochmilton now. There's a major issue down here. So if I've got confused with the whole lot now. If Donald's the one of them proposals that Donald's making the right and putting that house and estate name on it, I'd want Ravens on that as well to get it secret to see. And I know exactly where Alison's coming from and where our hands are tied with this, but it's just greedy estate agents selling these houses off before they're finished off, and people shouldn't be buying them at all. So that's just my talk on it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah. Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. I was just coming in on a point because I didn't quite hear it right, and apologies to Councillor Maguire if I've got this wrong, but I think there was a comment made in terms of the First Minister. The First Minister is well aware of this issue and has been dealing with the residents as well for 9-10 years on this issue. I think everybody was disgusted by the pictures that was seen at the weekend. You know, it's disgraceful that the residents have to live like this. But on another aside point, Chair, Councillor McAleer made mention of pay rises. That wasn't for MLAs, it was for their staff so that they could have basic rights like sick pay, like maternity leave, and I'm sure obviously he would agree that they should have that same right. So I just want to make those points as clarification. Thanks, Chair.
That's a total tangent there. I think it's not. I don't think there's any benefit for the council to slide into that. That debate at the moment. We're sort of keep it focused on what we're doing. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would echo the sentiments of a lot of the councillors in regard to the issues in this particular development. The unfortunate thing, as sort of mentioned by some of the councillors, this is a legacy of a time when a lot of development was taking place prior to 2007. It probably goes back to the late 1990s when things were done in a different manner. Reference has been made to solicitors in the Law Society and to estate agents, everything like this. I think if members were to look at practices now, they would find that those societies have, in the main, changed their practices, and there are a lot more stringent controls in regard to conveyancing at the moment. Councillor Keenan referred to the fact that the planners have a hand to take in this for the problems that have gone forward. I would dispute that. An issue of planning approval does not necessarily give carte blanche to any sort of developer to carry out things that are not up to the required standard. It merely gives approval for a development to take place. Maybe he would need to brush up in matters of planning before he makes comments that criticise not our employees, because I think that was the time when it was with the planning service, but anybody for actually carrying out their duty. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Philly, your hand's still up, but I'm assuming that's an error. Councillor Coffey, please be as brief as you can.
Yes, I will be. Thank you for letting me back in the chair as well. I just wanted, it's a point of clarification really, under the Northern Ireland Act for 2014 is the Local Government Act. Section 79 gives CARS the powers to do anything that an individual can do. So I'm wondering how it is ultra vires for us when Section 79 clearly states that the council has power to do anything that individuals generally may do, 79.1. And I'm wondering if perhaps we should, and I'd like to propose it, that we would get a presentation from NILGA to the councillors very briefly to clarify our powers in regard to the general power of competency, because I'd like to see where it is, how it is that we haven't got the powers to do something an individual may do when it's something to do with preventing sewage coming out of, thank you.
I think, Councillor Coffey, you've only really quoted half the legislation there, but I'll let the Chief Executive.
Well, no, that's correct, Chair. But just also to say that within the last 4 weeks, I think, we have had a very detailed presentation by Edwards and Company on the general power of competence, all associative legislative provisions, enabling legislation and constraints. The copies and the slides were shared to the best of my recollection and are available on decision time. So certainly I would really question what the merits of a further presentation from NILGA on something that we had a very detailed session on a very short time ago.
I would tend to agree, Chief Executive. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, if it hasn't been seconded, I would like to second Councillor McElduff's proposal. I think many of us have been approached by constituents regarding issues relating to housing developments and problems of lighting and drainage and footpaths and bin collection and all of those things. And I think it would be very useful to have a resume of how we can approach these things in a way which is likely to benefit our constituents. So I want to support and second his proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Amity Fitzgerald, please.
Yes, yes, do you hear me, Chris? Yeah, sorry.
Yep, gotcha. Yeah,
I just want to support everything that's been said. I don't want to go around the roundabout, but I think for Mana last weekend has been horrendous. But I think, like everybody else, it's very easy to put blame on, but I think the blame is between the reluctance of NIW, to come forward and to give even developments that I've been dealing with in the Omagh Killyclogher area for 12 years. They've been frustrating. They won't come forward. They won't chat. I've been sending numerous letters. They eventually responded to an MP letter for a few developments about the Killyclogher area, but not responding to local councillors. So I think they have a failure in that. There's a possibility of developers as well, but I want to congratulate just the council that whenever I have any issues in coming out on site, they've been very good. Kevin O'Gara, who was there prior to that, but also there is an adopted team with DFI Roads who work very closely as well with me as well. So we just want to congratulate them, for all the hard work, but they find it very, very frustrating. And these issues are going to go on for years for many, many developments, and people have paid good money, has been said, and I just feel it's very sad. They've been left in a state of no man's land. It's very distressing for them, between no street light, not getting their bins. But I think that's very bad one with the sewers coming into their streets last weekend. So I feel sorry for those families. And that's my words. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
No, it's all been covered, so rather than hold up the meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Councillor Keenan, you've been in before, so I'm going to let Councillor Baird in first. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor Baird.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Coffey's talking about NILGA providing us information on general power of competence. Alison quite rightly pointed out, and I've looked at my diary here, 1:30 on the 27th of July, there was WebEx training on the general power of competence. I presume Councillor Coffey availed of that, and if he didn't, maybe he should have, and he would be in a better position of knowledge on the general power of competence. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Keenan, and then I have a sort of I don't know if it's a point of order or a point of technicality, but then we'll take that and then we'll take the vote. Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, well, I had a dispute with Councillor Irving saying I was not criticising the planning department, but I was merely highlighting the connection between planning and the developer.
Okay.
And I was trying to highlight that there's a failure within the system and controls of the developments.
Okay. No, I'm sure that can be appropriately captured in the minutes. Councillor Coffey, you'd said something around was it a technical point or something? And we'll take that and then we'll put it straight to a vote.
No, I addressed the technical point, but just to reassure to Councillor Baird that I indeed was at the training, but as far as I could see, there was only discussion limited to the possibility of the council establishing public-private partnerships to take forward external matters, but this issue was obviously not addressed as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Chair.
Well, okay, well, we'll take it to a vote. As I say, I'm not prepared to let that go forward because I think it's beyond the council power. So we have, if the Chief Executive wants to sort of clarify, I've got sort of a letter to DF. Sorry? Yeah, no, I'm gonna. Letter to DFI, letter to the Finance Minister, some kind of reporting back
on what scope we do have, Chair.
We do have, and a workshop by.
Yes.
Yeah. So is that how you see it? Yeah.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, right. So if we take the first one, which is a letter to DFI, anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. No, lovely. Letter to the Finance Minister, anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. The report back wasn't really a motion, so it'd probably be all right. And then the workshop, anyone who wishes to vote against, please indicate now. Okay, right. I think that's that sorted out. So we were on page 3, wasn't it? Yeah.
Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of confusion here. People are talking about motions. Is it a proposal or is it a motion? Some clarification, Chairman. Thank you.
No, thanks, Chair. Sorry, thanks, Councillor Thompson. No, I think people use the term relatively interchangeably. It is a proposal, but as long as I think if they use the term motion, it's understandable.
Well, Chair, no, I think actually, if I may, from an administrative perspective, it is confusing.
Yeah.
A motion is something which the council is given forward notice of, and you have an opportunity to consider. So anything that does not appear on your order paper as a motion is a proposal.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification, Chairman and Alison.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. So, Councillor Clark, your hand's still up, but I'm going to assume that's in error. Councillor McCaffrey.
Gurmagut, Caherly. Yeah, just well, it's actually in page 3 and on the top of page 4, item 3.2.
Chair, may I, before just Councillor McCaffrey goes on, I just have one related point to the DAERA.
Okay.
If I may, Councillor. It's just to advise that we have received now an indicative date from the Minister to meet with the Agriculture Liaison Group. The proposed date, Chair, is Wednesday the 7th of October at 10:30 a.m. and the Minister has indicated, given the current restrictions, that will be by WebEx or equivalent. So we would just be looking, I know that is something that the Agriculture Liaison Group has been waiting for some time, just formal support for that date, please, if members are content.
Okay. I have 3 hands up. I don't know if they were in relation to the earlier stuff.
Caherly, Chair, just as one of the members of the Agricultural Group, I would be happy to accept that formal date for a meeting online.
Okay. I'm trying to sort of, it's all mixed up here, but I think Councillor McCloughery put his hand up. That's a new one.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in on this. It's just, I'd be very keen to see that meeting. Would it be possible that it could be broadcast, that I could watch it? I know I can't attend, I'm not a member of the committee, but...
Sorry, Chair, no, this is a meeting with the Agriculture Liaison Group, so it wouldn't be something that would be broadcast. However, we would certainly be taking a note from the meeting, and that would then be reported through to the Regeneration and Community Committee meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Obviously, Chair, councillors who are not members of the Agriculture Liaison Group could attend in an observer capacity, if that was wished, but we would just need that notification or information in advance so we could make the arrangements.
Okay, I think that's
thank you very much. That's what I wanted. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Feely, is that a new hand up? Yeah. Councillor Feely. Can't.
Sorry, Chris. I hadn't got that mute button right here. 7th of October at 10 o'clock. Was that? If it's suitable to the other councillors, I'd be happy enough for that. For I would love to get chatting this Minister for Agriculture. He'll be hearing a lot of stuff that day now. The 10th of October, 7th of October, 10 o'clock, is it?
It's 10:30, Chair. Wednesday the 7th at 10:30. We do have an agriculture liaison group scheduled before the end of September, so we would be proposing to use that as a preparatory meeting for the members.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Alison. Well, if other people's happy that, I can propose that if you need a proposal for all that. Okay, thank you.
Maybe a seconder, Chair, if you were content. Councillor McCaffrey's proposed, so we're okay on that regard.
Okay, well, that's a seconder. Councillor Sean Donnelly, and if it suits, there's no need to sort of say such, but yeah. Councillor Donnelly?
Thank you, Chair. No, just for clarification, will there be notifications sent out about them two meetings?
Yes, indeed, Chair, there will. Normal
Thank you.
will issue.
Alison, thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes, Chair, I will second that proposal. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's already been seconded, but yeah, thanks for your support, will be noted. Now we've got Councillor Clark and Councillor McCaffrey still looking in. I'm not sure if that's for next or if you're happy with this. If it's not for this, take your hand down and know I'm coming to you later on. Councillor McCaffrey?
Yeah, Gormagad Caherly, is this for the next item?
No. What I'm saying is that if it's for this item, just I need to have a clear hands. Just and I will bring you
I'm very happy. I'm very happy. The Agriculture Minister is going to have a meeting with us, as Councillor Feely suggested. There, we are going to have a lot of discussion. So I'm more than happy that.
Okay, right. Anyone who wishes to dissent from that, please indicate now. Nope. Okay, that's passed. Okay, so Councillor McCaffrey, you were now looking in on the next page, weren't you?
Yep. Gormila Mulgut, just on item 3.2 then. Just in relation to the childminder scheme, just since our last meeting, council meeting, there had been some progress on this. However, I want to propose that we make representation to the Education Minister, Peter Weir, to ask that he urgently revises his proposed rights repayment for childminders, which equates to £8.52p a day, which is less than 1 hour of the minimum wage. Childminders, like others in the childcare sector, stepped up to ensure that our health workers and other key workers could continue to go to work during the pandemic, knowing their children were safely and securely being looked after and cared for. So it's important now that we support the sector in playing what is a vital role for the recovery. Minister Weir has already presided over one failed childcare support scheme where, despite funding made available by the Minister of Finance, Conor Murphy, it was not made accessible by the Education Minister to the childcare sector. This resulted in a very low uptake on the previous scheme, contrary to the significant need for support in this sector. While the introduction of a new support scheme is welcome, the funding allocated to the childminders is simply not good enough. Nowhere near good enough. Also, it does not address the long-standing lack of support for affordable or indeed free childcare. Recovery plans should address this and reform childcare provision in our society. Childcare workers, and in particular childminders, who are predominantly female, and the contribution they make to our economy is far too often overlooked and undervalued, and this needs to change. On top of that, the lack of provision impacts heavily on working mothers. This also needs to change. So Shinna Will, Gormila Mulgut.
Okay. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And Councillor McCaffrey did well to get in there ahead. I want to second that, subject to one further change. I understand that the childminders have made, they're organised through NICMA and other organisations, that they've brought together a number of proposals and a paper, and has provided it to the Minister for Education. And in particular, I would like to include a reference to the commitment that they're seeking of a top-up to the current Childcare Recovery Support Fund of between £700 to £850 over a 2-month period. That would only bring up, that would only be 30% of the total support allocated to the sector. And I think as a council, we should be seeking to support our childminders. So if Councillor McCaffrey was content, I would happily second, subject to that addition. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor McCaffrey, you have enough of that?
Gormogad Carly, yeah, I'm happy enough with that. Gormogad, Councillor Coffey.
Okay, Councillor Feely.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'll be brief. I was just coming in the second Chris's proposal as the childminder were frontline workers. I forgot about it. That's all I want to say.
No, thank you, Councillor Feely. Look, there are no more indications, so we'll put this to a vote. Anyone who wishes to dissent from this or be found be shown to not vote in favour, please indicate now. No, okay, we'll call that passed. So that's 3, 4, 5. Councillor Emery Donnelly, is that 5? Yeah.
Yes, page 5, item 3.5.
Okay.
Okay, it's really under matters arising. I wonder, has there been any response yet from the Minister in relation to this?
Yeah, Chair, literally just before the meeting, we received correspondence from the Department for the Economy from the Minister. So I was going to include to both the Regeneration and Community Committee as well as to the Broadband Working Group, because members I know wouldn't have had an opportunity to review in advance of this evening. In summary, the Minister indicates that she is not available to meet with the Council on this subject. She provides some details in relation to some of the requests, but not all of the matters raised. But we will have that for the Regeneration and Community Committee next week, Chair. And I do know that later in the agenda, we have a request that Council powers be devolved to the recommendations from the Broadband Working Group to allow for certain further actions to be undertaken.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly, is that happy enough? Yeah.
Well, I want to follow up on that. Thank you, Alison, for that update. But given at the time what they were looking at the impacts of COVID-19 and how we might recover, the issue of poor broadband connectivity has been highlighted more than ever in across the district. I mean, there's still very many people working from home, and they're working from home in a way that had never been envisaged. And indeed, students also are using online connectivity for submitting work and so on. I mean, we've all heard many stories about how it's impacted the people in our district, and our rural people are being disadvantaged still. And I welcome the letter from the Minister, but I actually like that we would write again to the Minister for Education to ask him to clarify how this digital divide is going to be tackled, because many families, if they're lucky, have one suitable device available for people working from home and for juggling schoolwork with children. I mean, there's been some relief from this with the return to school and reopening of libraries and so on, but we can't depend on this continuing to be the case. And these are not solutions for many families, particularly in rural areas. This pandemic has highlighted this issue, and just as it has with hidden hunger in the year 2020, and particularly in the last 6 months, we've seen how digital connectivity is essential, a human right even. So I would propose that we write to Minister Weir and ask him to detail what plans he and his department have put in place to address the digital divide here in Fermanagh and Omagh in providing equipment to students, including how many devices and laptops have been provided and what representations, if any, he has made to his colleague, the Minister for Economy, or indeed the Executive regarding the lack of connectivity across their district.
Okay. Okay, Councillor, that's the proposal on the table. The next name up is Councillor Swift.
Gormagad Ciara, and I'd be happy to second Councillor Fitzgerald's proposal. She has made all the salient points and addressed a lot of the issues that we've previously discussed, and they continue to be serious issues. I'm very disappointed that there's nobody willing to meet on this very serious issue. And Project Stratum, it is clear that there are going to be gaps left by it if we do not address them, and we need to hear from those in power with investment how they are going to be addressed. I have two other, they're not exactly related to Councillor Fitzgerald's proposal tonight, but in advance of the Broadband Working Group meeting with Openreach, I feel it's imperative that we receive and discuss the wider investment proposals with them, and I want them to come prepared to the meeting to us, because we haven't really obtained already the overall picture of investment. All councillors received the massive printouts of the white postcodes, and we can all see our own areas, where we're being disenfranchised again. And it's right across the super council area. So in terms of the removal of postcodes from Project Stratum, I'm proposing also that we write to the department responsible as soon as possible to make representations to clarify if these have been finally confirmed. Because if there's room for further improvement, we want all postcodes included. We've been promised for far too long within the confidence and supply that the rural area was going to be the area concentrated for broadband fast speed. I have noted over the COVID period, particularly in the Enniskillen area, where BT have placed the boxes for the fibre to the home. And I have noticed there are fibre connections pointed to the house in quite a few locations across the town, with actual fibre connections not going into the home. And the question has to be put to the providers: why are you placing PCP cabinets in areas at the disadvantage of those in the rural towns who are crying out for them? And obviously they're not being used, contrastingly, in the town area. And that's probably reflective right across the super council area, if anybody would take the time to have a look at the boxes that are placed. So I think that's pathetic use and waste of money, and I want that to see stopped. So I'd like an investigation requested on those and the uptake. The other serious point is, if we look across to the Republic of Ireland, the comparison in our neighbouring counties of Leitrim, Cavan and Donegal, where the national broadband plan is actually offering speeds of 150 meg up to 1 gigabyte. Well, this actually shows the vast difference that we here in our little statelet are being offered when we hear speeds still of 30 megabytes. Now, while we were delighted to hear the presentation that we were at least getting something, I think when we look across and see what's being offered in the national broadband, we really need to be getting into first gear on this, because we need to future proof. Somebody in Cashel could get 30 megabytes, and someone 100 yards away in Kilty could get 150 megabytes. So this is really unacceptable. We need to be in the 21st century. Ultra fast broadband is going to be crucial, as Anne-Marie has already said, for all aspects of life and business. And we can't allow a lesser product to be satisfactory for us. So just to reiterate then, we don't want to see our rural areas disenfranchised or discriminated. So I would like that question put to BT about the fibre boxes already being placed where there's no uptake, no obvious fibre going into the home. And again, the comparison with ROI and the national broadband speeds. Why can we not have those speeds? We definitely need them for every single aspect and category of life as we know it. Guramagat.
Okay, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things, I suppose. First of all, on the Project Adam, I find it incredible that we are in a point now where a lot of meetings can be done via WebEx and Zoom and so forth, and that the Minister is yet again declining to come down and meet with us at a very time-critical juncture in this project, and we are and have been seeking answers for quite some time. So I don't think it's good enough, quite frankly, that we just get come. I would like to know why this Minister is declining to come and meet the elected representatives of the people of Fermanagh and Omagh to be able to take forward something, as I said, time critical to the benefit of those citizens. And certainly if the explanation as to why she hasn't been able to meet with us online, even as opposed to physically, then I would ask that we would write and find that out. The other point that I want to make, Chair, is when we were talking about Minister Weir, and certainly there is a growing concern in the educational sector that the promises made in June by the Minister to actually provide extra payment for schools to be able to put in place the proper precautions necessary to protect us all against COVID-19, but particularly pupils and staff in schools, has not yet materialized. And we are facing into a very uncertain future where school budgets are under tremendous strain, and we are pushing schools into a position where some schools may not be able to afford all the necessary provision that they would like to have to protect the society. And this, I think, is scandalous. So there is a big need, not alone for the extra laptops that were supposed to be provided, but for this very much needed underlying money that was supposed to be spent up front and then reimbursed, and certainly at this point there is no sign of that reimbursement being done. And further to that, Chair, the connectivity that we lament so much about here is so important to, as councillors have indicated, to the poorer families. And certainly in other jurisdictions, there is a payment for families to be able to cover getting and being able to have broadband connectivity in their house, not alone just to have the proper equipment to use when they have that. But I would be asking here that we certainly be writing to the Minister, and if Anne-Marie was happy enough to add that in, to look at being able to fund families that are on universal credit in some way, to be able to, for those families that have no access to broadband or can't afford that access, rather, that there would be some help to be able to allow these families the opportunity to connect in, to therefore then not be left behind by the increasing digital divide, and to be able to make sure that those children have the equal opportunities to do the best they can in the education system.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. The next one up is Councillor Coffey. I would draw your attention to the time at this stage.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, in relation to the national broadband project in the Republic, unfortunately, the promise of broadband speeds up to 150 megabytes per second doesn't actually guarantee you that, because it depends on the infrastructure. And I understand that there are people, for example, in Kilty Clogher, who are reliant on broadband provided by UK providers because the speeds are so poor in Leitrim. So I think we should have no illusions whatsoever as to the paucity and the terrible condition of broadband infrastructure in some parts in the Republic. It's bad enough here, but it's also bad there. I wanted to raise a proposal, however, on the issue of that was originally raised, which was around education and broadband, and it is something that has come to my attention. I'm sure other councillors have heard it as well. It is that first-year students at universities are basically are being prevented from studying at home, even though all the courses are going to be online, by the fact that the universities concerned are actually requiring them to pay for a year of accommodation up front, as first-year students would be reliant typically on in-house provision. And what would be safer, obviously, is many students would prefer to study from home remotely, and that those places be made available perhaps in the second semester and so on. So I'd like to propose that the council would write to the Minister for Economy and to both Ulster University and Queen's in particular to request that they would provide a facility in terms of accommodation that would allow students to conduct remote learning where that is possible, in particular for first-year students. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you kind of put me in an awkward spot there, Councillor Coffey, as I'm still technically employed by the Ulster University, so I may have to sit this one out, Chief Executive.
Chair, it's always a matter for the member, but you could certainly declare an interest at this point. And Councillor Coyle, but what I would suggest, Chair, maybe you'd like to conclude the other proposals, and then Councillor Coyle, there are a number here, could include that item.
But you don't know what they're going to speak on.
Oh,
That's the
well,
problem. So I
that's
think
fine, okay. Then Councillor Collins to take over, Chair.
Okay. So we deal with.
Well, just Chair, maybe in the first instance, if there's a seconder for Councillor O'Connell's proposal, just around the representations to be made to DFE, Ulster and Queen's Universities.
Happy to second that, Councillor McAleer here.
Okay, so then we'll open. Any other members would like to speak on that proposal?
My hand's up here, John, again.
Okay, Anthony, go ahead. I have no hand, so.
Yeah, I'm going to second Bernice's proposal there. I was coming in to second Anne-Marie Donnelly's there, but I didn't get what. And I'm not going to go over all the said. I disagree with everything said, but I'm second Bernice, the Councillor Swift's proposal there.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair, maybe we could just clarify if Councillor Donnelly is content to reflect Councillor O'Reilly's request regarding the provision of funding to families on universal credit to be able to avail of broadband and associated technology.
Okay.
Happy to accept the amendment, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Any other members like to comment?
I think I have my hand up there, Chair.
Okay. Sorry, I have no hand function, Alex, so I apologise. So please, can you talk now, please?
Yes, thank you for letting me in. Now, getting back to the general broadband and Project Stratum, I do recollect one meeting of the broadband working group and was on it when the now First Minister was the Minister then and came, and my recollection is we were told that Stratum was to provide broadband for the not and low areas. Then when the executive went into non-functioning mode, the civil servants took over and it was decided that Project Stratum's contracts had to be based on value for money rather than coverage. Now, if we go down that road, and that hasn't changed as far as I understand it, so I really do believe that's something that should be taken forward by the appropriate minister to grab that by the throat and take it back again rather than... but having said that, I do believe the contracts are September are being put out for initiation of Project Stratum. But until Stratum goes back to what I believe was the original intention, the not areas not taking into account value for money, we are going to be just having sporadic broadband as you go from one place to the other until we get fibre to the home. With BT again, they fought a long time saying fibre to the home wasn't possible, and then suddenly a couple of weeks ago, for recollect, Councillor O'Reilly was photographing Newton Butler in various areas. We're getting it. So I think there's some questions for BT there. I better stop at that point, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Baird. And Councillor Feely still has hand up, so I think he has spoken. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming on that final point around Project Stratum and what we were originally promised, I believe Councillor Baird's referring to a meeting that was held before my time on the council anyway, and in that, and from many contributions over the past number of months, the now First Minister said that Project Stratum would focus on rural broadband, or would deliver, or the main focus of it would be rural broadband. But if we look at the actual wording of the confidence and supply agreement, in no way does it mention rural. So when that was written between the DUP and the Conservatives, they didn't put rural. They didn't actually put rural as a stipulation. They didn't care about it, or didn't realise that they hadn't put it in. And unfortunately, it was either a lie or a misunderstanding from the now First Minister, or the Minister at the time, or mistruth. And maybe she didn't actually understand the confidence and supply agreement that she had in front of her, but it was never actually stated on paper, and that's a total failure, in my opinion, of the two parties writing the confidence and supply agreement. And unfortunately, their error is going to potentially cost us now in terms of we're not getting the much needed focus that our constituents need and deserve, because we all know, given the very numerous contributions tonight, I'll not go over them, how vital broadband is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. Councillor Glenn Campbell, please.
Yes, Chairman, I wanted to declare an interest as course coordinator on a foundation degree accredited university, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted. So I have no other indicators to speak. So we have a number of proposals. So if the Chief Executive would like to take them, or
Yep. Okay, Chair. Certainly, we had the first proposal from Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, I think seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, I think. And that was quite comprehensive in terms of writing to the Minister of Education to clarify how the digital divide will be breached, detailing the plans they've put in place in Fermanagh and Omagh, including the details of devices provided, the representations made to executive colleagues, and then also a request that they provide funding to families, particularly those on universal credit, to ensure they can have full affordable access to broadband. Councillor Swift, seconded by Councillor Feely, had asked that before the broadband working group that we have full details from BT of the overall investment proposals, from Openreach before the overall investment proposals, and to also clarify for them the utilisation of the fibre boxes which have been installed but with apparently no uptake or limited uptake. Then from the department to clarify if the postcodes which have been removed can be reinstated, and if the list of postcodes which has been circulated more recently with Project Stratum have now been confirmed. And then in terms of the National Broadband Plan, that we'd be seeking a formal assurance that it appears that we would be a poor relation given the speeds proposed under that plan, and to clarify what the formal arrangements in relation to Project Stratum will be and why we can't apparently receive those speeds. Councillor O'Reilly just had indicated we seek the formal reasons from the Minister for not meeting with the Council, and that we can reflect that into our overall letter back. And then finally, proposed by Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor McAleer, that if we write to the Department for the Economy, Ulster and Queen's Universities to request that they provide suitable facility for online provision and for the associated accommodation, particularly for those students who will be entering into their first year.
okay, so we will go to ask if there's any dissent. Yeah. So Anne-Marie Donnelly's proposal and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Is there anybody dissenting from that proposal?
Chair, this is Anne-Marie Fitzgerald here.
All right. Yes.
And point of clarity, I think it was Councillor Bernice that possibly seconded that, not me.
Oh, that's okay.
Bernice, that's okay. Sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald. So Bernice, is that correct, Bernice? Just to clarify.
Yes, yes.
That's okay. Thank you. So, anyone dissenting from that proposal? No. So that is passed. So we'll go now to Bernice's proposal, seconded by.
Sorry, Councillor Swift's proposal, seconded by Councillor Feely.
Councillor Feely seconded. Is anyone dissenting from that proposal? No. So proposal by Councillor Riley to write back to the Minister getting clarification on why she what the reasons was for not meeting the council. I think we need a seconder for.
No, I think, Chair, that we would just reflect that in the correspondence to the Minister and some of the other matters of clarification.
Okay, so that'll be added in.
Yeah.
And Councillor O'Coffey, letters to Ulster University and Queen's. Is anybody?
Councillor McAleer seconded that one.
Councillor McAleer seconding it. Is there anybody dissenting from that proposal? No. So that is all the proposals gone off the table. And I I will pass back to the chair, and he will take control of the meeting again.
Thank you very much, John. Oh, no, so we were on page 5. We've got 2 more hands still up, Councillor Curry and Councillor Coffey.
You're on, I think,
Are they
maybe
from
page
the
6, Chair,
from the
perhaps.
past? Page 6 maybe?
Yeah.
Councillor Curry.
Okay, Councillor Curry.
Yeah, Gurmagada Cahirley, as just issue 4.1 is dealing with petroleum and mineral licensing. So I know our group leader, Barry McElduff, has been in contact with you today, and I appreciate you letting me hear on it. Members will be aware that the LDP draft plan strategy proposed changes consultation is ongoing. The Sinn Féin party grouping feel very strongly that there is a serious discrepancy between what was agreed on unanimously as the policy for MAN 04 and what is currently represented in the consultation. We met yesterday, Sinn Féin, and this issue did loom large in our discussions. A result of that was for our group leader to contact yourself, Chair, the Chief Executive and relevant Director, Kim McLaughlin, today in an attempt to have this issue resolved. Our position, Sinn Féin's position on fracking, has not changed. We remain opposed to fracking in Ireland and everywhere else, and this includes the importation of fracked gas. Our LDP needs to accurately reflect our council corporate position in relation to fracking, and it needs to accurately reflect what was agreed on by this council. The original wording in the original draft LDP is what we unanimously agreed to. We take on board the responses and are grateful that we received today on this, and appreciate particularly Alison, your advice that this step in the process is not a statutory step, and that the version we submit to the department can simply be rectified to what was agreed. But we feel that this incident has raised issues of confidence, not just amongst us as councillors, but for the general public as well. We appreciate that the LDP steering group is due to meet this day week, but Sinn Féin proposed that this is an issue for all of the council. This policy was agreed on at a full member special committee meeting on the 24th of February and was ratified at a full council meeting on the 3rd of March. You know, what is out being consulted on now is not what was agreed in those meetings. So therefore we propose that an emergency meeting is called to deal with the LDP draft plan strategy consultation on proposed changes, and that would be for all councillors to attend if they wish. And we further propose that the consultation should be halted now. For us, Sinn Féin, this is the only way we feel to restore confidence, and councillors in general, I'm sure, will agree with that, and the public confidence in this process. Gurmil Mogget.
Excuse me. Yeah, Councillor Curry, I suppose I've been talking to your group leader about this at length today, but it's probably best to bring the Chief Executive in at this stage.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, just demute here. Oh, no, sorry. Well, no, Chair, the proposal has, come forward. What I was certainly going to advise was maybe something slightly different in terms of that I've reviewed obviously the documentation, and I think there is some ambiguity between the various minutes, in particular the open minute of the special Regen and Community Committee and the confidential minute and the text as presented. What I had indicated in my earlier communications on this, Chair, to the Councillor Curry, to the Sinn Féin group leader, to yourself, was that as a non-statutory step in the process, I thought there was scope certainly for us to provide any clarity that would be needed by way of publication or other information. However, I accept the proposal before us is beyond that, so I would just take members' views. My only point maybe of clarity, if I may, Chair, before you open up further to members, it's just Councillor Curry's proposed an emergency meeting. Would that be, is she proposing an emergency meeting of the Regeneration and Community Committee? Because what I am mindful of is obviously that committee is convening next Tuesday evening. We could include the detail in terms of this particular matter, which I understand is the main issue. And should members be so minded, we could have council powers devolved so that the matter could be considered around consultation. If, however, it was to be an additional standalone meeting, that can be accommodated, but it will be certainly a couple of weeks away given your existing schedule.
Okay. Well, we'll maybe let you. I think maybe Councillor Curry would be the best if you want to make response to that, you can. Your proposal is valid and it stands, but if you wish it to.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to take other members' comments on board on it. I suppose I had been thinking that we had got a scheduled time in for the LDP steering group. If that was opened, maybe to all available members at the time, perhaps that could be a solution. I do think there's quite a bit to go through. You know, the question is really about, you know, and we can understand how there is a bit of ambiguity. We're very clear actually on what was agreed, and I think it is very clear in the minutes. But the issue around confidence, do we really, you know, do we possibly need to look at everything else that has gone out on this consultation as well? And that's where the discussion will probably centre. So the time allowed for that discussion to happen.
Okay, well, I think then a standalone might not be the best approach to take that. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm glad to come in on the back of what Councillor Curry has said. I would like to first of all request Councillor Curry perhaps thinks the entire council adopted and unanimously, according to the minutes, a position which was to restore the former wording in regard to Minerals 04. We are currently consulting on something diametrically opposed to that. And I would really just suggest maybe that it might be a consideration that we could end the consultation immediately and to recommence a consultation on the basis of what was agreed by all the councillors. So that's my proposal, if possible. Now, I want to raise a few issues here in regard wider issues.
You know, that may be. Would it be perhaps the best way to do it though, just to keep everything sort of just that you?
Well, yeah, I'll just get this over with. I'll not be long.
Okay, I think so.
Sorry.
Would it not? Well, sorry, I can hear somebody else speaking as well.
It's just that Councillor Curry has already proposed that the matters would be paused, so it's just it's not a new proposal. That's my only point at the stage, Chair, and I can.
My difference is that I think we should clarify tonight that and reaffirm our position as per the unanimous decision to go back to the original wording of Min 04. Now, I don't find Min 04 sufficient for me. I've been arguing all the way through for ban fracking position, as we all know, but it is a robust position and it is one that affords a degree of protection. I also want to put on record my opposition to Min 01, which does not cover exploration activity. And I have to say that the entire process behind this local development plan, I share many of the subtext that was from what Councillor Curry said there. There's a degree of confidence here. There have been workshops without any minutes. There have been minutes that I have repeatedly raised concerns with in regard to the steering committee, and a lot of these meetings in private.
This is factually incorrect. The Councillor O'Coffey has requested a set of minutes which will be considered at the working group next week. All other minutes have no. Councillor, factually incorrect. All other minutes which have been presented, all other meetings which have taken place in terms of the working group have been minuted, presented to the working group, adopted. You had asked me in the course of the last week the timeline around dates which was provided. The minutes that you referenced, and indeed in your response back to me, I understood you were satisfied with that response. I advised will be considered at next week's meeting. So I think we need to be careful not to conflate matters here, which I think we're at the risk of doing, Chair.
Yeah. Chair, sorry, I was cut across there. I don't think the Chief Executive actually heard what I said. I agree with what she's after saying, actually. The minutes in regard to the steering committee There's only one set of minutes, and I'm looking for those, and we're going to raise them in the next. That's fine. But there have been workshop meetings which were not minuted. That's my point, and that's what I'm concerned with. The whole process has been conducted in a way that I think that lends itself to the public asking genuine questions around it, and then we have this decision that comes out diametrically opposed to what was unanimously agreed. We then consult, and I have to say, who was it? Like, how did that happen? That the councillors unanimously agreed on a position which was to affirm a stronger protection against fracking, not one that's adequate for me, a ban fracking, but adequate, and everyone agreed to it. How do we go from that situation to a situation now where we're currently consulting on a position which is far weaker? So that's my concerns. Thank you, Chair.
I suppose there is a proposal on the table which I guess is going to pass, that we have a full council meeting. There is maybe merit in saving the debate around the intricacies of this issue for that specific council meeting, and I'd ask members to think about that, Chief Executive.
No, it's just if I respond just specifically to one of the comments Councillor O'Coffey made just there around if we can essentially pause the current process, terminate the current process and reconsult on the wording. We can't do that, Chair. We can certainly pause the process if that is the members' wish this evening, and I know that was included in the original proposal, and then we can report back to you on the next steps, including what Councillor O'Coffey has indicated regarding the matters which were agreed, ambiguity or otherwise. I'm not saying, by the way, that is in relation to the agreement, but rather perhaps around some of the record in terms of the minute, and we can detail that for you if there's to be a standalone meeting on the subject. So certainly it is in your gift to pause the matters, but we couldn't reconsult on something else at this evening's meeting, Chair.
Yeah, but I think that's covered within Councillor Curry's.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, which I don't believe was seconded.
Not yet.
I'm coming in here now, and Chris.
Okay, well, Anthony, you're next on the list, so on you go.
Thank you, Kieran. Sorry for butting in there. No, I'm just coming in to second my colleague there, Councillor Siobhan Curry's proposal there, who spoke very well about it there, far better than I would be fit to speak about it. But I'm just saying, as somebody that's living about 10 miles down from Belcoo, where the frack site was, or the borehole, sorry, in 2014, and I myself totally opposed it, and I'm not going over what Siobhan says, but I'm just going to second Siobhan's proposal there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Feely. Councillor Green's next on the list.
Thank you, Chair. Just what Siobhan said about competence and the public perception. I have watched Facebook and different things all week, and councillors has been accused of taking brown envelopes and all sorts of things. So public confidence in the councillors has been completely undermined in around this decision, and a decision to go out to consultation on something that wasn't agreed on is an absolute, in my opinion, I can't emphasize how serious an issue this is. I'm just flabbergasted on it, because people out there are just disgusted with what has happened and are blaming the councillors who, in fairness to every one of the 40 councillors, did not, and I repeat, did not support what is out for consultation.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Chair. I support the decision to have a meeting about this Min 04. I believe, and our party, are against fracking. The issue, I believe that it has watered down. Public health was, what the council had decided to go with, and I think that what has gone out to the public consultation has, weakened our position. It was, it is going to be detrimental to the environment. It's going to be detrimental to our community's health and well-being, and I will look forward to the meeting and we'll discuss this further.
Okay. Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to second the proposal from Councillor Coffey. I think it's vital that we actually this tonight. This is something that's come back to us completely different from what was agreed, and I've looked through the minutes, and obviously, once again, this was something that was carried out in confidential business that we're kind of limited on what the detail of what we can explain and can say about it. But it's explicitly there in black and white what was said. What I would really like to know is how has the consultation document gone out with something completely different to what was agreed? And given the length of the document and the complexity of it, how many other instances of this have occurred? Because thankfully, we have a very active community groups in our area, very active anti-fracking, anti-mining groups who are keeping a very close eye on these things. But only for them, we would not have been made aware of this watering down of the language used. And I think like it's been said by itself, like this is a massive public confidence issue. But not only the public confidence, it's also affecting councillors' confidence in what they're doing week in, week out, and from month to month, that then what they have actually achieved or felt that they've achieved, when they go back and read minutes or when they go back and look at a follow-up document, what has been agreed to, and in this instance was agreed unanimously, is not actually what's being presented. And I don't know what the chief executive, what the issue, maybe Alison, you could come back in on. Why can this not be terminated if we are currently consulting on something that is not what has been agreed? And again, like Councillor Coffey, I don't actually think it's gone far enough. I've been outspoken in my logic that we should ban fracking, we should ban mining for precious minerals, that they have no place here. They're destructive to the environment, to people's health, and people are well versed in. When there's been unanimous agreement on a point, how does it come back that something completely different is what's appearing and being presented to the public? And I'm sure there are parties and politicians across the board that are getting at the neck from local people from different groups. But in this case, they're not guilty. You know, this is something that has been agreed to the benefit of our local population, and yet what's being reflected in the document isn't what's being pursued here. So I would like to see that decided upon, and I would like to see it cancelled for the time being and then put out to tender again. And I would like to see also just how do we follow up on where this went right? Where was the divergence here? Where did this different piece of information come? Thank you, Chair.
Well, Chair, sorry, maybe just to take the latter point first. We will certainly be getting a full report on for your consideration as to how the situation that we're currently in has arisen. In terms, Councillor, of just the specifics on why we couldn't proceed to consult or newly consult on Minnow 4 on the basis of this evening's decision, it's just because the decision in relation to the all decisions actually around the proposals to consult on the proposed changes were taken less than 6 months ago. So that would require a formal rescinding motion if that was needed. So what I want, and I think we can reflect this in the context of if there's to be a special meeting, is to provide the mechanisms by which that could be revisited if required. There is no such provision on you to, you can proceed to pause the consultation proceedings this evening, but you couldn't also reconsult on wording which was decided upon the subject matter within the last 6 months. It would have to be framed in a rescinding motion, which, as I say, could be dealt with through a special meeting, as has been indicated.
Okay.
So it's just entirely procedural. That's all.
It's procedural. As I say, I'm sort of, if there is a meeting to be had about this, then that would be the forum for this discussion to go on.
Clarification, Chair, if I can.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Could I ask the Chief Executive to explain that to me? Because how would we have to wait 6 months to change something that we actually didn't agree on? Surely the point is that we didn't agree it, and it'd be different if we had agreed it and now wanted to change it, but we didn't agree it. So how is that procedure?
Chair, I suppose this is where well, I know I use the wording around ambiguity. documentation, there's the 3 versions that I've highlighted. So I think the issue in terms of the decision is that the members are obviously very clear. The decision taken reflects actually the October 2018 published draft plan strategy. The matters that I'm referencing in terms of the proposed amendments, because it has been requested in the course of the discussion that the entirety of the consultation is paused. So all of those decisions were taken within a 6-month window, this being one of them. I appreciate that members have asked that all matters be looked at, and it is possible that some of the matters are deemed acceptable, some, including this one, are obviously deemed not. So it's solely because of the timescale of the 6 months, irrespective of the nature irrespective of the nature of whether or not members are in agreement with the decision. So in terms of specifically, Councillor Green, if the decision indeed was to go with the October 2018 wording, that would have to be reflected in the reports that were presented to the committee at both the Special Regen and Community Committee meeting. I appreciate reference has been made to it being dealt with confidentially. That was largely because of legal advice which was pertaining at that time.
Okay. Councillor Coyle, your hand's still up. Are you? Yeah, okay. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding this issue, the impacts of fracking are well documented, and how negative and destructive it would be to a whole load of areas of our life here in Fermanagh. And the SDLP has been very strong on this issue, with decisive action being taken in the past. And you know what? And that was following what was an amazing community campaign in Belcoo. That's something that we can't forget. And in Belcoo and the wider area, might I add, how amazing the community has been and the community groups have been in highlighting this very important issue. You know, there should be no ambiguity in our position as a council. You know, we had agreed what was a fairly strong position. Okay, and that position should be what's consulted upon. Like, not any change from that. How on earth this happened is beyond me, and I suppose we'll find out in this report. And you know what, the public and councillors are rightly angry and worried about this, because it puts into question our prior decisions. It puts into question the whole process. What else could have changed? And that comes into the confidence issue, as Councillor Curry has said, and I hope the details in this report come through. So a pause on this consultation is sensible, and it's very necessary at the very minimum, and a special meeting would be a very valuable avenue to allow us and the public to have full confidence in this procedure, because confidence in this is absolutely needed, and we need to be consulting on what we agreed. Thank you.
I am very conscious that it's now 2:02, and I would like a decision made by this council as to how to proceed before we breach our time. Obviously, there will be opportunities for individuals to yeah, sorry.
No, Chair, I just wanted to make, if I may, have one very brief comment, because in case I've misled, I'm Councillor Gannon was referencing the ambiguity. I'm not suggesting there was ambiguity in the minds of members. What I'm just referencing is the various records. Okay. That's also, I wouldn't want to. I think we're very clear, and the reference has been made to unanimous agreement. So well, just to clarify on that basis.
I am very anxious to get this decision. So I can't. I am going to put Councillor Siobhan Curry's as the first proposal to the floor. I'm going to ask anyone who dissents from that to please indicate now. Okay, well, I think that's passed. Chief Executive will report back as to when that meeting can,
as soon as possible, yes, Chair.
And that the process is now paused.
Yes, yeah. That's the entire process, yes, Chair.
The entire process is no pause. It's 2:03. I think it would be totally unrealistic to expect that we will get this meeting finished within half an hour. So therefore, I am going to close the meeting now and wish you all I was going to say good night, but yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm close the meeting now, and we'll meet again when reconvened. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.